This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is made possible with support from Linksys. Bad Wi-Fi is usually due to your Wi-Fi equipment rather than your ISP. Update to Linksys and kiss those dead zones goodbye. Linksys solves the biggest Wi-Fi issues like buffering and connection problems, and you can easily set up guest access and parental controls. Visit linksys.com to save 15% on a new router with the code TEST while supplies last. That's Linksys, linksys.com. Cannot be combined with other promos, and refurbished products not eligible for this promotion. One per customer.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, October 17th, 2019, welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Right. Look at that fucking squirrel on my bird feeder.
And then suddenly, the Enterprise D's bridge.
It's not the D. That's the A.
Oh, the sound effects are wrong.
No,
Whoever
that's the
made-
D, isn't it?
No.
Oh, that is the A.
That is the A.
Is it the A or the nothing?
It's the nothing.
Yeah. Everybody's wrong.
There's no blasted A,
You're
B, C, or D.
the DAX on this thing. Mwah. I've never heard the richness in the tone in the dubstep intro like I have from this bad boy right here.
We realize that the fine intro music and the interstitial music that our fans out there, you the listeners out there, have made for us, we're actually in stereo, and we didn't until we listened to it on this new mixer. We didn't realize it, and so we still mix down to mono.
Well,
for you out there,
Yeah.
Podcasts should be mono.
It's great for us here, but for you out there, it will be mono.
I disagree on that, by the way. I think they should be stereo. I don't think people care about bandwidth and storage anymore.
Well, but we record mono. It's not like we're using stereo mics.
Well, that's true, but this is stereo, as said, and we could split the voices across
No.
the soundscape.
Can I tell you what happens when you do that? Because I did that when we first started making this podcast, and I had to start mastering the podcast.
People
at the
who
very
have
beginning.
5.1 systems don't get the center channel audio.
No. I on the first few episodes of This Is Only a Test, I did it in stereo, and I put Norm a little bit to the left and me a little bit to the right.
Yeah.
Oh no!
People were upset.
Really?
Profoundly angry.
Why?
Because they said it was like listening to a tennis match the whole time. You just left.
Maybe
right,
you were
left,
too extreme.
right.
Rally.
I mean, maybe, but
Ping pong.
I
Rally's
thought it was
on.
cool.
You went full Beatles.
Hey, welcome to the podcast this week. I'm Norm, and as you've heard them already, Jeremy's here.
Hi.
Will's here.
Hello.
Kishore's not here.
I'm this week's Kishore.
That's right.
And now a moment of science.
Too early.
It's way too early in the
Sorry.
podcast, and not in stereo either. Let's kick things off. How were your past weekends? What's been going on lately? Jeremy Williams.
I told you about going to
Favorite-
Santa Cruz, right?
Yeah, that was 2 weeks
go to
ago.
the
I got nothing.
You went to the boardwalk?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
That's
but
nice.
as I said, I guess I already told you about
Did
it.
y'all watch the Blue Angels this weekend? It's Fleet Week
that
in
this
San
weekend?
Francisco.
Yep.
This past weekend.
I had an earthquake.
We had an earthquake.
We had a chonker. It was a big one.
4.5.
I thought it was 4.7. Did they downgrade it? It was out. I was out in the East Bay, and I had the thing. Remember that XKCD where they talk about how fast seismic waves travel versus the speed of light in
That's right.
routers?
Yeah, you caught it early.
I literally opened Twitter to tweet, "Oh fuck, an earthquake!" And by the time I had opened Twitter, I was seeing the East Bay people tweeting. So I was like, "Well, this has got to be far away from me. I'm probably okay."
Yeah, it wasn't East Bay, and people in Santa Cruz didn't feel it until like 30 seconds later.
Yeah.
What struck me about this earthquake was it was the first one I can remember since living here, and I've lived here 12 years, that we've had two earthquakes in such close proximity to each other.
It's a good thing.
I completely missed the second one. We didn't feel the second
Wait,
one.
No, wait.
I mean the one a week or two ago.
Yeah, there was
Oh.
one last week.
I didn't feel that one either.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
That was light, or it was during New York Comic Con. It was over the weekend,
Right.
And it was in the morning. That was like a morning 9 o'clock one, and then this other one. I think they were along the same fault lines, but 10:30.
They felt similar to me.
This
And they were
one,
low and rumbly.
this one was long,
Long and rumbly.
and it made a noise. It made like it was weak by the time it got to us in Pacific.
Growl.
But you mentioned the Blue Angels. I had a nice experience driving home across the Bay Bridge.
Me too.
And the Blue Angels flew over the Bay Bridge.
No!
Almost over the Bay Bridge.
Why you were on the bridge?
You stole my story.
Really?
Jeremy Williams.
And what that
was
took-
it Saturday?
No, it was probably Friday.
I had that.
Wait, when was it?
It was Saturday.
It was Saturday.
Was it Saturday about 2:30 to 3 p.m.?
It was mid-afternoon.
Wow.
I can say that.
We were on the Bay Bridge at the same time.
And what that took me back to
You were bridgesies.
is
Bridge twinsies.
San Francisco Rush.
Oh
Because-
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I loved that game to death, and I played it in the arcade before I ever lived here. And in that game, you're driving over a bridge, or at one point you're driving over the Golden Gate Bridge. Another point you're driving over a hill, and the Blue Angels fly over your head. And I saw the SF skyline, and there's the Blue Angels, and I'm on a bridge, and I was like, how many people in the world would
kill.
appreciate this for the video game reference?
And then
Well, for the video game reference, few. Like,
did the concrete start exploding around you
exactly.
and like the whole city crumbled?
you could swerve and just kind of ghost back in
Yeah.
position. Traffic was moving smoothly. Weather was wonderful that day, and I was saying you could not plan for this. I was so bummed. You know why? I did not have my dash cam USB key in. Because I would have,
missed it.
I was going to push the button to record, to back record using the dash cam on the car. And it was literally, like you said, on the Bay Bridge, and it was between the pylons, and it was in the dip in the suspension bridge, and it was right through. And right as I was driving, it was boom, 4 of them in formation.
Wow.
You could hear them, and you could see them coming. Like, are they going to do it? Oh my God, I better slow down. Went right across and then over to the Embarcadero.
So they used to go under the bridge in the old days, and they stopped doing that now. So now they just fly really close over the bridge.
Really close.
Like
over.
how high were they?
I mean, it looked like they were.
Could you reach out and touch them?
No, you couldn't reach out.
That is way better than mine. They just flew near the bridge.
No, I went between the suspension pylons.
That's amazing.
That's
And I
That's
was like,
400 feet
you could
from
not
you.
pay to
Yeah.
schedule this. It just needed to happen.
Norm, you have, as always, you're living a blessed life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baby got to enjoy it too. Welcome from a snap.
I was gonna say that sounds less good.
My wife hates Fleet Week.
Oh.
because she is not a fan of loud noises.
It's great.
I didn't
it's,
hear
It's
it.
also
They
a little
didn't-
bit scary because like it does feel a little bit like you're in the Michael Bay Transformers movie.
Yeah.
And Starscream is coming by and going to climb a building.
Well, they don't make the.
You got to do it yourself
Yeah.
too,
Not
right?
bad.
They're flying and you're going
Pretty good, right?
No,
I-
this is better.
They used to fly. They used to like circle up and regroup over Pacifica, and then last year SFO changed their traffic patterns. They're mostly using They're flying over Pacifica now, so that means the Blue Angels can't do that anymore. So I don't get to see them all week practicing anymore during Fleet Week, which is a bummer.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's very cool.
If you have a chance to watch an air show, I mean, a lot of people do, but in a big city, that's really cool. Anything fun this past weekend, Will, for you?
Oh man, it's soccer and base and basketball season.
Kid soccer.
Kid soccer. So the Pacifica Under 7 League is rocking. It's very friendly. Nobody yells. It's very nice.
Hey,
That's it. Nothing exciting.
I want to talk about this. Maybe better to talk about it in text. Yeah, let's talk about it now. You built a computer
I built a lot of computers
for
Norm.
a friend.
dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands.
Well, you built specifically Gary Whitta's new PC.
Oh yeah,
How
Gary
was
asked
that
for help.
experience?
This is, I think, the second or third PC I've assisted Gary with. After the last time I did it, when he said, "Hey, that PC you helped me build," by which he meant you built for me, I think on camera it tested, needs an upgrade. I was like, "There's this great company called Origin. You should go call them and just buy a PC from them." And it's terrific because when you have a problem with it, there's an 800 number you can call and they will help you out.
I did that. I did a Falcon Northwest, and I don't think it was I don't think it's a great idea. I mean, there's something to be said for putting your PC together. You know,
How long have you known Gary?
long enough to know that's not for him.
Yeah, exactly. So he, because he's an influencer now, a big time influencer, he got a bunch of free hardware and couldn't get Origin to put the free hardware into a PC for him. So he asked me if I would help him because we're friends. I said yes, but I was only going to give him 48 hours of customer service. That was it. At the end of 48 hours, problems become his or the Geek Squad's, whatever. I don't care. I just don't want to hear about it. But no, it was great. We put it together. He got a really sweet Corsair case with tempered glass sides that looks very fancy, and there's all sorts of cool lights and shit inside. And
Can you see it on camera on his Twitch stream?
I believe that I'm not plugging Gary's Twitch stream here. I'm here to plug my Twitch stream, sir. It's good. It was fun. He did way more of the assembly this time than he did last time we did it on camera. I think he put in memory. I did the scary stuff like CPU sockets and stuff like that, but he screwed into the case and a lot of that stuff. It was good. We did not do it on stream because it's an incredible pain in the ass to stream a PC build.
PC build. Yeah, we've tried live mixing it. Your hands get in the way.
There's no way to get light inside the thing that makes it look good.
You did one with Lloyd a few years ago.
Yeah,
that,
Live Mix,
That
yeah.
was the
Yeah.
VR box I built.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I followed your build and made that very same PC.
Norm and I did probably 5 or 6 when I was at Tested. One a year, I think.
And we use a shuttle style PC, which you can see
Mini
through.
ITX.
Mini ITX, so it was easy to kind of look
Right.
at both sides.
Is that what
and-
that's called?
Yeah. The company's shuttle.
The only problem with those is you don't have enough PCI Express slots now. Yeah.
Well, especially if you want to put USB-C on there.
Yeah.
USB-C for
Well, you
Link in the future.
got to just get a new USB, a new motherboard.
There's
if you
not
need
a slot
USB-C.
for that?
There's not if you're using Mini ITX, there's
Yeah.
not as many PCI.
There's only one slot.
lanes.
Is there just the
X1
one for the graphics card?
No, there's an X1.
Okay.
There's a but some people use that
For an
other
SSD or
things.
something, right?
Yeah.
No. Most Mini ITX boards only have one slot,
Just the X16?
just the big one.
Wow.
Yeah.
So no then.
Okay.
I'm out of luck.
Because I have one that's very similar to the one that you guys built that I used as my travel PC before laptops could do that.
I'm
And-
due. I'm due to build. The whole point is I'm due to build a PC again.
Well, you should.
I got like half the parts I need.
Hey, sponsors.
I have been playing a lot of Asgard's Wrath,
Yeah.
and the loading times on a regular old hard drive were killed me so much that I ordered an SSD
Gee, Jeremy, you only have a regular old hard drive?
for my gaming hard drive. Like my system's on an SSD, like the Windows, right? But then I install because I wanted like a multi-terabyte drive for my games, and
$200 right now.
SSDs used to be so expensive.
They're
Now-
so cheap now.
Now it's like it was well under 200.
Those
bucks.
Intel Optane 3D NAND ones are $200, and they're not perfect, but like they're great if you want one.
And now it's not even about SSDs. Now get like RAM memory,
Yeah.
like storage.
So anyway, I swapped over last night. I can't wait to try it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about your load times.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to hear about load times.
That's right. That's
Oh,
right.
I'm sure everyone loved the rest of this intro segment talking about Gary's PC build.
So it's the thing that struck me building the PC because it had been a little bit since I built something from scratch, like without moving parts and stuff over. Like there's essentially like 5 components because it's like CPU, motherboard, RAM, cooler, power supply, SSD, video card.
You
That's
could
it.
do
7
it
components.
in half an hour.
That's not true.
What takes the most time for you?
Cables, routing cables, and getting everything so it doesn't look like a rat's nest.
Uh,
And it still looked like
For
a
Gary-
rat's nest. I told him if he wanted to do cable management, he could take it all apart and do it himself.
yeah. The thing that takes the longest time for me is the cooler. The cooler stuff still is because I always use the self-contained water cooler.
Yeah.
that the Corsair has, and then those have massive fan heat.
Just
sink
for
combos.
CPU?
Just for CPU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they've made those easier to put in the modern cases because like his case had a little like a piece of metal that you pull out and you bolt that onto the cooler and then you just slide that in and screw it in with one screw and that made it a ton easier. But yeah, the lighting, getting the lighting, I doing his computer made me want to like get a really gaudy, lots of RGB LEDs.
It's all RGB
case.
now, right? Like,
Oh, dude, they're all addressable RGBs. You can program them to do all sorts of weird
like
shit.
even the graphics card has RGBs on it.
Yeah. The top.
Yeah, where it says GeForce on the side of the 20 or the RTX cards. Yeah.
It's crazy.
The RAM, if you get like high-end PC 3200 RAM,
That has
it has
RGB?
programmable RGBs.
So funny.
The motherboard, so the Gigabyte motherboard that he got, that I told him to get, has headers out to just plug RGB strips in. Mm-hmm. So you could make your whole PC a game frame, Jeremy.
Yeah, but you couldn't draw on it. What would you do?
Play on it.
You know the coolest mod I've ever seen along those lines?
Yeah.
Somebody put, instead of a acrylic panel as your window, an LCD display with no back.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, that's awesome.
and so the light from the inside of the case illuminates the panel. Is
Yes,
your
but
backlight?
black is off, and so it's
Sure.
transparent, whereas colors are opaque, and so it's like a hologram.
Oh.
So it looks like a smart window.
So
Yeah.
it opens up to look inside the PC with an animation.
It's a window with that you can, that is also a display.
That's the thing I want. So there's been some weird display stuff come out lately, right? Like the RGB LED cubes that Samsung, that used to be like a commercial installation thing, and now they're starting to sell them to consumers with the micro LEDs, where instead of having like
These are
pixels or a
panels.
screen, it's just a grid of LEDs, RGB LEDs that you can like click together with other cubes to get the resolution and screen size
When you say
want.
cube, do you mean square?
he means rectangle.
Okay.
I mean a square.
panels. You
They're
mean
squares.
panels.
Sorry,
So you
they're
mean-
square panels
okay,
that are
but-
modular.
yes,
Not
Right.
not three dimensional.
So like each panel is like 300 pixels by 600 pixels or something
Okay.
like that, and they're like 4x4,
Two-dimensional.
two-dimensional.
Got
Well,
it.
but they have thickness because they're
But they're not a
electronics on them.
cube, brother.
Okay, yes, they're not. They are a three-dimensional.
I'm with you.
Yeah. and you can hook them together to get up to like 16K resolutions. But
Wow.
then they're like wall size.
Yeah.
So you basically can make this whole back
This is
wall.
great. We talked
Very expensive.
We talked years ago about turning Game Frame into an art installation.
I still want to do that.
like
I'm
Nintendo
in.
resolution.
How'd you address all that? What
That's
drives it?
where that was that and the power required were why we didn't do it.
I think I don't know. You could do it now wirelessly.
Oh right.
As long as a controller can manage it. And
Well,
Well, they'd each run their own controllers.
Yeah.
but there'd be a server that
Something to
would
sync
sort
it
of
all.
calibrate everything.
I think that would be a lot easier to do now than it would be before because you just use RGB strips and build a frame that goes on top.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
yeah, absolutely. People have done that for sure.
all right, enough of the chit chat.
All right.
It's good to hear you guys had great weekends.
Okay.
Let's talk about top story.
Top story this week.
It's like I was blind and now I can see.
Stereo, man.
Holy hell!
Oh, I thought you were talking about his efficiency in moving the show along.
No,
The sound.
Norm has always been the segue master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the sound is just—I can't believe that you're not letting people at home hear this.
We tried and we're like, nope, too much work.
Too much work.
Too much work.
All right.
Mixed down. It's gonna be mono. I'm sorry. Top story is gonna be this October 15th, but 2 days ago, as you're listening to this podcast, Google had their Pixel 4 launch event. Well, a bunch of stuff was announced, but primarily Pixel 4, new hardware, new phones, the most leaked phone intentionally in probably the history of Google.
It's a shame Kishore's not here. He's the Android rep.
Yeah.
I've used Android.
There are two sizes, a Pixel 4 and a Pixel 4 XL, and the kind of 4 flagship features of the Pixel 4. Remember last year was a big camera, right? Camera with night sight. They had the TV commercial for that. A wonderful feature that worked well. That's now kind of propagated amongst other Android phones.
Kind of like the iPhone this year.
And the iPhone followed suit with its own long exposure, computational photography, low light mode. Well, the Pixel 4 still has 2 cameras, still has your standard camera, telephoto camera, improved night sight. They did a demo on stage where it's like you could see the stars. They will know that you're shooting stars and they will combine those exposures so that you can actually make out the night sky. That's great. But the cameras are actually not the focus of the features for the Pixel 4. Number one, they want to talk about Face Unlock. The Pixel 4, like the iPhone 10 as of 2 years ago now, has a Face Unlock. Samsung's done this already. That's why the phones also have not a notch, but that's definitely have a forehead.
I'm
to the
totally
screen.
fine with that. If Apple wants to do that too, fine.
Really? You
Yes.
prefer the forehead
I
over a
do
notch?
not need symmetry.
You don't
Yes.
need on top and bottom.
Yep.
Huh.
Wow.
Interesting.
You really don't like the notch, right?
I feel like the notch is okay, but it bugs me more than it should.
I think Apple loves the symmetry
Yes.
more than they think the
Right.
I'm surprised they didn't put a notch on the bottom this year, frankly. Have
They
a
did-
top notch and a bottom notch.
Like having that notch cut into your movie if you go full screen is not acceptable.
That means if that happens on the movie, that means the movie is rendering wrong. The movie is supposed to not render into
There's
the
two.
notch.
There's two. There's
You can
two.
zoom in,
Two
you
ways to
double
do it.
tap.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes you're watching like Netflix Stranger Things, and those are shot in 2x1 essentially.
Yeah.
And so you want really widescreen, and it goes into a notch. It does not. The software just doesn't know what to do with it really. Regardless,
User interface guidelines have gone to shit at Apple. In the
the
last
forehead
few
is
years.
there on the Pixel 4 because there's Face Unlock, and from all reports, the Face Unlock here is exceptionally fast. They're doing kind of like a IR blast type thing with their with
I
their
thought they were using radar.
algorithms.
Aren't they using radar
That
to
is
measure
separate.
your
That-
face?
that is a separate.
We're
thing.
getting there.
We're getting to
Okay.
radar. That's the fourth big
That's
feature.
exciting.
Yeah. Well, I don't know really though. Okay, but anyway, really fast Face Unlock. Of course, highly integrated with Android OS, so it's going to basically replace any place you need to put a password or your key pin. And people who've used it at the event said it's so fast for the demo purposes. They had to like artificially engineer a slower version just so you can trigger it.
I didn't hear if it supports like attention awareness. So with iPhone Face Unlock, there's an option you can toggle. Do you need to be looking at the phone? So if my kid holds the phone up to my face and I don't look at it, it won't unlock.
I think it does.
Okay.
And that's not difficult for them to do because the way the iPhone does the attention awareness is it blasts IR and it takes a picture, and as long as your two eyes, because the light goes right to the back of your retina and bounces right back.
Yeah.
So as long as it sees your cat eyes, essentially, it knows you're paying attention.
so like red eye is finally good for something.
Exactly. Yeah. And then the other feature is it's not necessarily new in the Android world. Some other phones, the OnePlus phones have had this feature for a generation now. Razer has had this feature, but it is, I think, probably one of the biggest features. It is a higher refresh rate screen, 90 hertz.
Wait, what did you say?
That's the first time that a real phone manufacturer has released a higher than 60 hertz screen, right?
Now that would presumably say that Razer and OnePlus aren't real phone manufacturers.
Oh, I didn't know
would say.
OnePlus had done one.
OnePlus has 90 hertz this year as well. That's
Okay.
OnePlus 7 Pro and the 7T and 7T Pro. But this is an OLED screen with a variable refresh rate, and they're calling it their smooth display, and it's 90 hertz.
90 hertz.
So
sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It does on the system level, and only when the app calls for it. Otherwise, it goes to 60 hertz is kind of the standard state. But presumably, any app that Google makes, Chrome, web browsing, those are the things that where you would most notice. Obviously, in the home, right, in the launcher.
Yep.
So the OS will just be smoother, and the big fear that people have with higher refresh rate screens on a phone. Specifically is battery life drain, right? What does this mean for battery life? Because you're running the phone. If you're doing nothing but browsing the web or Twitter, do you really need that smoothness at the cost of battery life? My experience with it is that it's negligible, the impact on battery life. Yes, on the iPad, 120 hertz, the iPad Pros, 100 hertz is wonderful, and they have the capacity for a much bigger battery, which is why it makes more sense for a tablet to adopt those first. But I think it's kind of ridiculous that Apple has not put a 90 hertz panel on their
Ridiculous.
iPhones. Ridiculous. They're saving it for next year because they need people to buy iPhones next year.
Well, I will say 90 hertz is going to be great for Daydream.
Man,
soon.
that is a really good point,
Too
Jeremy. I
soon.
can't wait. Like
Too
the 60 hertz
soon,
is always bad on the
Jeremy.
headset, so.
Well, and I guess as a related to that, and we might as well mention it here and not in the VR Minute, is that support for Daydream is going away. Google has kind of abandoned its phone VR strategy.
Does that mean Google's completely out of the VR game now forever? They're just backing away?
I mean, everyone's working toward AR.
Yeah,
presumably
that's some kind of
the
reboot.
AR core stuff is all going to feed into an AR play. Slowing the phone, Daydream stuff was
Goggles 2020. That's what I say.
I feel bad because none of the phone-based VR stuff. I mean, I'm of two minds about this. One, it got developers paid, and it got them because
It provided a bridge during those lean early years,
and
yes.
it exactly allowed developers to experiment in that space, and they could tout user bases, but it also overhyped a VR format that really didn't have legs.
Well, the 3DOF stuff, you mean?
3DOF stuff and also the phone-based stuff.
I mean, the thing is, the 3DOF stuff was so disingenuous because everybody, including the people manufacturing 3DOF stuff, knew that 3DOF wasn't good. When Oculus released Oculus Go, they knew Go was bad. Like 3DOF was bad.
Unless they sold, it was highly successful for them. One, not just because price point, because of the intent for media watching only.
Well, yeah, and it's also
Right?
nice to have things to put in your drawers.
I think if you chatted with them and they talk about like user retention and what people are doing, people who bought Go's and who are watching movies,
Maybe.
e.g. porn,
Yeah.
they love it.
Well, yeah, the pornographers love Go.
$200 cheaper than buying a phone, and what Samsung was selling for before they did the pack-in,
They were giving those
$100
things for free. You could get them for free. If you looked a little bit.
MSRP $100 for a plastic shell.
I mean, the bummer is there were a lot of really neat games. Like virtual reality came out of Daydream,
Yeah.
and that's a really cool, weird thing that wouldn't probably exist otherwise, right? Like it is unfortunate. I mean, I guess that stuff has all found homes on other platforms at this point.
And Daydream had that whole. They tried to do a second wave with 6DOF with the Lenovo stuff, right? They had the inside-out tracking. It just they couldn't reconcile the 3DOF old legacy apps, and they didn't fund the 6DOF apps, and it was all still phone-based.
Was that a Google thing, or was that Lenovo just doing 6DOF?
No, it was
That was
Daydream.
Google.
I didn't
Okay.
know that either. Carmack gave an homage, not an homage. What do you call it? Eulogy. Thank you. Went to Gear VR at OC6, and he mentioned that he thought maybe Daydream pulled it off a little bit better than Gear VR.
I mean,
I think
definitely took some
The
lessons
form factor,
learned.
just the ease of inserting and the
The
abandoning
controller
things.
and stuff was better,
Yeah.
I think, for Daydream too.
Yeah. I mean, also the problem on the Android side is that there's just so many different form factors for phones and screen sizes. I mean, Lenovo has that problem with their Star Wars / Marvel AR headset where you slot the phone in and it does the combiner because you basically need to crop into the lowest common denominator phone screen, which is, I think, an iPhone for them.
My favorite thing about the Daydream was that you could put the controller inside the headset. Like it just
Storage.
folded into the thing, so like you always had it. It was really good.
Back to Pixel 4. The other feature is the radar. They're calling it motion sense.
This is a thing we've heard about for literal years. Like the patent was years ago. They bought a company that did that came up with this technology, right?
Yeah, Project Soli was the project internally. And what it is, it's a hemisphere. The radar chip creates a hemisphere of about, what's the radius of it? 2 feet in diameter. So
Okay.
not that big,
Okay.
but enough that it can know when you're reaching for it, and it can then do predictive what start displaying stuff, activates things like the face unlock ahead of time before you grab the phone. So that extra half second of knowing your intention is to potentially grab it and use it, that is useful for making the kind of user experience.
It's like an
very
extension
smooth.
of your intentions in mind.
Yes.
And you can swipe above it to go fast.
Force powers
to
over
go
the phone.
ahead and rewind your tracks when you're listening to music. I
That
wonder.
doesn't seem super useful.
I wonder, like how much, what else can this do that they haven't actually figured out or unlocked yet?
Is it only working? Is it working all the time?
Well, I mean, it can work whenever they want it to.
No, but I mean, like, is it on all the time?
I don't know. Presumably for power saving, it uses the IMU and gyro to know that when it's on a table, the IMUs are not moving, and maybe that's when
It turns on?
It turns on or has a kind of a low level
But like if
state.
it's in your pocket, presumably you don't want to be
exactly
like gently irradiating your
and they
leg
know
the whole
they
time.
can tell when the phone's in your pocket. All the fitness stuff knows that.
But I also wonder, like, how much of this could be done with just visuals, with the cameras, like especially like with
the
Apple.
cameras are way more power intensive.
I doubt that
Are
they
they?
have. I doubt that they have a wide angle. That's true. Maybe that's part of it.
the computation part,
Oh, right.
because you're doing computer
but-
vision versus
But there's
numbers.
well, okay, it's easy to do. Our pixels changing. It's hard to do. Is there a hand above me?
It also wouldn't
Right.
work because the cameras are facing down.
Yes.
Like, so if your screen's facing up, does this work in either orientation?
Well, there's a camera on both sides of the phone, Jeremy.
right, but the fancy wide angle cameras, at least on the iPhone, are going to only
That's
be
a
on
really
one
good
side.
question. I don't know if it works. I think their demos were phone face up.
Yeah.
Well, and Google's had wide angle cameras on the front of the camera for a long time.
As
Like,
wide as the new Apple one?
they do wide. Yeah, you've been able to do wide selfies for since the 3 or 3A. I can't remember which one. I'm very interested. Like this is an interesting concept to me. I don't know. It seems like a feature that they've rolled out without maybe knowing entirely what people should use it for. But if it lets them turn on the phone faster,
Yeah.
that's probably a good thing. I guess I don't know.
So only one selfie camera now. Speaking of which, in terms of
So they got rid of the wide-angle selfie camera?
Rid of the wide angle. It's 90-degree field of view, and so it's right in between. The Pixel 3 had 75 and a 97, and so it's going to be a little
it's still pretty
wider,
wide.
but and they probably crop in as a default, and you
Yeah.
can kind of double tap to expand it wide.
That makes. I mean, resolution. Given the resolution of those sensors, that's probably entirely adequate.
Yeah, and of course they needed more space on their forehead for all the face unlock stuff.
I didn't upgrade.
I didn't
Do you want to
either.
talk about it?
I didn't either.
You didn't get one?
No.
Gina got one. It's been very hard for me to not get the new phone.
got the green.
We know you got the phone.
I got the green though.
Gina got the green too. You guys are twinsies. She got the big boy though.
Oh, I didn't get the big one.
Yeah.
I like
It's very big. It's like a small iPad.
I got the white initially, and I didn't like it,
Oh, really?
and I passed that. I gave that as a present to Danica.
Wow. Hey, here's something I didn't like enough to keep. You'll love it.
And so I got two of them.
I have the
First world
white
problems.
I have.
We have a child.
Yeah.
He's almost a year old. We need pictures for his first
Look,
year birthday. I'm justifying all sorts of things.
You took.
Thank you, baby.
We
for-
took
for allowing me.
18,000 pictures the first year our daughter was alive.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That is very much the point.
It's ridiculous.
Speaking of cameras, going back to the Pixel 4, there are now 2 cameras in the back. You have a standard wide angle, and now their second camera they chose telephoto. So still, you could say imitating Apple in terms of second camera being telephoto. Although,
Well,
on
I
the
think-
11, it's on the iPhone is wide and ultra wide.
I think
so they
the
diverge
yeah.
there.
No, I think the telephoto is a better choice.
Telephoto is 100% the more useful choice.
Yeah.
Because from my experience, if you want to talk about the iPhone stuff, the ultra wide iPhone, I've been disappointed by the image quality. The fixed focus has been very
Because the ultra wide
lackluster.
doesn't have focus pixels, right?
no focus changing at all.
Oh, it's just a.
It
It's
is
just
a
a.
fixed focus to infinity. It's a meter out to infinity.
So, look, the thing is, you can do really neat things with the wide angle camera.
Sure, yes.
But it is not a general purpose.
right.
Our speculation is that Apple chose that for 2 reasons. One is so as they differentiate between the 11 and the 11 Pro, the 11 Pro is a $300 upsell, and
Yeah.
really the only functional difference. Yes, it has a OLED screen. Yes, it's high resolution. Blah 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 blah. Battery life, but the only real functional day-to-day difference is the telephoto lens, which
Right.
I think we all agree is more useful than ultra wide, and so that's what they're getting people. Like
No, but
Yeah.
the second reason.
and the second reason, ultra wide as a standard lowest common denominator across all their 11 phones and presumably going forward is better for AR kit and world mapping.
Right. So that's why I think that the
Oh,
wide angle wasn't the
yeah.
differentiator. Like that, it needs to be the common denominator.
Yes. So they have a common denominator which is novel for photography purposes, but useful for slam purposes.
So then why not do an ultra wide and a telephoto? And do you think the sensor fusion's not good enough to cover the gap?
people still, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sensor fusion is definitely like the you get the widest aperture with the sweet spot lens.
Oh, okay. So they have the portrait lens. They have the, okay, that makes sense.
So you've used the ultra wide then.
Yeah, I have.
It's crazy. It's like a fisheye.
I
I mean, 120 degree.
You could absolutely shoot a skate video on that and look
Yeah, oh,
make it look rad.
so
well, here's the other thing: when video, it crops in.
yeah, just like always.
A little bit. You're right. It's not as wide.
I used it to do some like product shots and stuff like that. I used it to do some portraits of our daughter. I used it to take some soccer photos, which were very silly with like the soccer ball huge and the kid small. It is very much, if you like got down low on that thing on a skateboard and hooked it on the front of your skateboard, you could do some GoPro ass business there. I don't know. I feel like I get going ultra wide. I feel like changing the entire product line to feature this, to work with this future technology that isn't out yet, is a real sketchy call.
I mean, that's Apple's MO. They seed these technologies in to lay the foundation for the future, so that when they
Yeah.
are second to market or not first to market with a class of technology, they have the better developer support base, and they can
Yeah, no, I know.
The other big thing of the camera, night sight is still there. It is still a separate mode. You're
It's
on
not-
Pixel
it's not
3.
automatic?
It's not automatic. You still have to change to it. I don't know why they did that, because it should auto detect when the light is low
Have you found yours switches to night mode when you maybe don't want it to
on the iPhone.
on the iPhone?
No, I always wanted to.
See, Gina has had hers go night mode sometimes when she wants the dark picture.
But but the default should be to switch for the better quality and then to toggle off than it is to switch to the.
I guess that's
switch
true.
to night mode on.
Yeah, I don't like so when I had the Pixel 2, I did not like having to switch manually to my night mode.
Right.
I found that to be frustrating.
I think from a user experience, opting out of night mode is a better experience than opting into it when majority of people want the image quality.
And you can theoretically always get one of the images from the night mode collage
They
or
don't.
whatever.
They don't.
I'm
They don't
I'm
let
just
you
saying,
track.
if you wanted to go back, you could.
Oh, like
if it
would,
took night
would
mode,
Apple
you were
ever
like-
surface that?
Yeah.
Never.
No, Apple wouldn't, but Google would.
No. Google,
Yeah,
totally. Google wants to make things accessible, and one of the features I am super excited for, and this is something Apple ripped this off, is not only look. So I'm gonna go on a little pro tip ramp. Photos that people take on their phones, by and large, trust auto exposure too much.
Oh yeah, you got to use the finger thing.
Yes. Most people, and maybe not you listeners out there, you're probably smart, but most people I know do not adjust exposure. Tap to focus, slide the finger down to slap down, because auto exposure wants things to be bright, but sometimes you don't need things to be bright, or sometimes you want things to be brighter.
Or often it chooses the wrong thing to
Or
be
they
bright.
choose the wrong.
Do you use halide?
I do, and I take the raw pictures that way.
Yeah,
And-
I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I find that's
and they
the
have the
solution
one
for
finger
confusing-
very.
Yeah.
So what Google has in the Pixel 4 is a way to not only tap and slide the exposure, but two exposure settings, one for highlights and one for shadows.
Oh, that's awesome.
So basic, and this is
That's like a real ass camera feature.
It's better than it, because you don't get that feature on
guess not,
DSLRs. Right, you have to. That's something you would do in Lightroom.
Yeah.
And it's not confusing, because I love that people have learned this with Instagram and learned it with, the built-in auto adjust features that you get on the camera app and the editing feature, or on Photos and Google Photos. People understand the concept of lowering highlights and increasing shadows or adjusting those in post as they're prepping their photos for posting on social media. To have that in real time is wonderful. and there Jeremy has put up pictures of the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL.
So they have 3 cameras now too?
No, they have 2. I just said they only had 2.
It looks like there's 3.
No, those
Why
are
is it square?
Those are the lights.
Oh.
Those are the
Looks like
flash.
there's 4 cameras on that one.
The pricing is, of course, undercuts the iPhone side. It's $800 and $900 for the 4 and the XL, starting at 64 gigs, and you pay $100 more. So the XL does get up to $1,000 if you want 128 gigs of storage.
Oh, wow, only 128 gigs?
Yes, I mean that's plenty. Apple does 250. Apple goes from 64 to 256 because they want to upsell, and it's a ridiculous amount of money they charge. $150 to go from 64 to 256.
I mean,
like it's I hate the fact they don't have a 128 gig option. That's just $100 more.
You know, you're right, because I have a 2-year-old iPhone 10 that I've never wiped, or I have everything. Basically, everything that I've ever put on here is still on here. I have 123.38 gigabytes free on the 256 gig.
There you go. You would have been perfectly fine with the 128 gig model.
I would have had to think about it.
You're close though.
No, I have half the space. I would be very close.
Also, they just want their better business strategies get you to pay for iTunes or iCloud anyway.
Well, but the thing is, 64 is too small if you watch movies on.
Oh, no.
If you travel and you have need movies on the plane.
64 is, I think, for power user people who take 4K video, people who don't want to live with their photos living in the cloud. That's why one of my pet peeves is like your photos aren't really there.
My photos are all in Google Photos. They're there. I can watch them whenever I want.
But they're cloud. You're saying they're cloud connected.
Yeah, it's great.
I don't like
the future.
You can't on airplanes. I want to see pictures of the baby.
You should print them out and put them in your wallet, like my grandfather did.
Okay.
I've never had that problem. I take a lot of pictures. I've never had that problem.
It's a setting. It's a setting that's default on because for people who have 64 gig storage, it micromanages in the back, so you don't have to worry about it, and just kind of
gets rid of
gives you the thumbnail and downloads it real time.
I wish it would just keep the good pictures, get rid of all the bad ones.
Well,
I'd pay somebody to do that for me.
So that's the Pixel 4 coming out later this month, I believe. There are a bunch of other features. The recorder app, which is going out to other phones as well. There's real-time transcription.
The real-time transcription of video and audio sounds really cool.
I think that the language interpretation is now all done locally. Like
they did it in airplane mode.
The entire English language natural learning engine is now in the phone.
That is pretty impressive.
Is this going to be as good as the captions on YouTube?
Hopefully better. Oh shit, they're the same company.
Yeah, guess what?
It's probably the same
all
thing.
All under the same underlying technology.
Maybe it will just force people to enunciate more as they're recording their audio.
Don't talk over each other.
I like the color schemes here.
I like an orange button. I like a good orange button.
They have an orange button also. It's a good price. It's well under $1,000, $800 starting price. I think that's moving into like the high end, Chinese phones, the OnePlus market. Definitely undercuts both the iPhone and the Galaxy.
All right.
Galaxy 10, Galaxy 10 Plus. So,
is the back still glass?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about from the Google event?
Can we talk about Nest?
Sure.
So
what do you want to talk about Nest?
So they killed their Works with Nest program earlier this year, kind of real quietly, which was the third-party APIs that just anybody could sign up and get a dev key and then make apps that would make Nest work with, say, SmartThings or Wink or whatever other smart home hub you had. And people were in a real fury about it. They rolled out 3 new ways yesterday as part of this announcement. There was a blog post that explained them all. And there's basically 3 things that replace Works with Nest now. So like the simple one, and the whole idea is to avoid like a big data sharing, a data loss moment, because it seems like Google has decided that users can't be trusted to protect their data, as a citing probably Cambridge Analytica as an example of why that is the case. So for low level, no data sharing, there's a thing that basically lets you do home routines to trigger certain behaviors. So like if you want your Nest thermostat to always turn on at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it's warm when you wake up, you can set your home hub to connect to that and not get any data back from Nest. It just sends a signal that says, hey, do this at this time.
Okay.
There's the normal developer program, which is full sharing, which will have limited distribution of those assets. So like if I'm a nerd and want to make my Nest work with my weird home automation stuff, I can. But it isn't necessarily like something that I can then make publicly available, is my understanding of that. And then the third, and this is the way they expect most of this stuff to work, is device access, where Google pre-qualifies partners to join the program, and they only are going to qualify presumably trustworthy, good actors, like I assume Samsung and Apple, and who, bad examples because they probably aren't going to, like Apple probably isn't going to be part of the program. But the point is, it'll be a partnership that they trust the other company to not, and they've reviewed their privacy policy in terms of service and all that stuff, so that your data won't go places it's not expected to go.
Okay.
So it's a good thing. They also had a bunch of new stuff, like the new, they're moving all of the Nest stuff. It's now Google Nest instead of just Nest. I don't know that matters, but they announced new products, like the new, a new version of the Google Home, what used to be the Google Home Mini, and now it's, I think, the Google Nest Mini. It's unclear.
Does it still work with if this, then that?
Yes.
Okay.
If this, then that, though, is not great for home automation stuff because it takes a while.
Yeah, there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah.
You mentioned Nest, and of course that is Tony Fidel's company, and there's something I want to talk about related to that, but
Not
we're going to
anymore.
wait till we move
Pop culture?
into our next segment. But before we do that, I do want to let you know that this week's episode of This Is Only a Test is also made possible with support from Caseta Smart Lighting Control from Lutron, pioneers in smart home technology. A lot of people think that you need smart bulbs to get smart lighting, but there's a smarter way. Caseta smart dimmers and switches replace the switch in your wall, so all the lights controlled by the switch will act smart. Think about all the places in your home where one switch controls multiple bulbs: ceiling lights, bathrooms, chandeliers, if you have one, and more. With Caseta, you'll be saving money by replacing switches instead of replacing all those bulbs. And smart bulbs are only smart when the switch is on. If someone flips it off, you can say goodbye to that smart control and connectivity. But Caseta switches are always smart even when the switch is off. With their dimmers, you don't need to buy smart bulbs to enjoy smart lighting, and you get the best of both worlds: smart lighting control from an app or your voice, and control right at the switch, so you can be completely hands-free, like when you're holding a baby and feeding them and trying to get them to go to bed and turn on the lights. Get smart lighting the smart way with Caseta by Lutron Smart Switches. Learn more at Caseta, about Caseta at lutron.com/test. That's LUTRON.com/test. So the Tony Fidel thing I want to talk about is this past week I watched this documentary that I cannot recommend highly enough. It didn't come out this year. It came out last year. It's actually on iTunes right now, not on Netflix, but it's called General Magic. Will, do you know about General Magic?
I know about magic and I know about generals.
No.
The company General Magic.
Is this the most important company I've ever heard of?
Yes.
Do they invent the future?
Yes.
Are they a bunch of brain trust nerds with weird glasses sitting at computers typing furiously and building
Basically.
amazing machines?
Many of whom you've heard of.
So
like Tony Fidel?
Well,
What about Andy Rubin?
Yes. Well, yes. Let me kick the story off. Well, Jeremy's actually playing the trailer here, but it's quite astounding. It is
a good
one
sweater.
of those Silicon Valley stories that, like, people knew about, but we don't talk about, especially in the post-iPhone age.
I didn't know about it.
And you guys saw the Steve Jobs movie, right?
Yeah, which
one?
The Michael Fassbender one.
Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely divisive, but
I like the first two acts.
sure. But aside from Steve Jobs, the big players in that film, you had Andy Hertzfeld, right? He was the guy, the of course the famous Mac programmer. He was Steve Jobs' confidant. He was a big role in launching of the Mac. You also had John Scully, who was played by Jeff
Pepsi
Daniels,
CEO.
who was brought in and of course famously kicked Steve Jobs, fired Steve Jobs, and became CEO.
Do you want to make
Responsible
sugar
for the
water
Newton?
for the rest of your life, or do you want to change the world?
That's right. And then you also had Kate Winslet, who played what's her
daughter.
name? No.
No.
The head of marketing for Mac. Joanna, what's her name? Blah, blah, blah. Hoffman. Joanna Hoffman.
All right.
Okay.
Right. So they were these like the super team at Apple for the launch of the Mac. Now, Andy Hertzfeld, Joanna Hoffman, and Bill Atkinson left Apple after that, and they formed this company, General Magic, under CEO Mark Porat, who ran the Aspen Institute. And their idea in '94, with investment from Apple, partnerships with Sony, Panasonic, and AT&T, was to create the first PDA,
Oh,
essentially.
okay.
Predates Newton.
Predates Palm.
Palm.
No,
93, 94.
Palm came out in like 95 or 96.
But they were working
I
on
guess.
this for,
Yeah.
a decade, essentially.
Yeah.
And the idea was Mark Porat had this, he wrote this book about his perfect device in the future. And it basically, there's a sketch of it, and it looks like the iPhone. It's icons on a candy bar. It's the phone of the future. It's the
Yeah.
smartphone as we know it now. And before there were really even cell phones, right? This was a device you need to plug in to AT&T to
Okay.
get pre-internet.
Okay. So you watched the documentary,
It's fantastic.
and so I haven't seen it. Did they actually have a working prototype?
They went to market.
They sold it.
They sold it.
You
How
can
did I
find
not hear
them-
about this?
You
You
can
can
find them
find
on
this on
eBay.
eBay.
How much are they?
$400.
What's the product called?
Really good question. It was not called General Magic. They had like it was the Magic Link, the Sony Magic Link.
Magic Link.
Because
Oh.
Sony was the one who did the manufacturing for them. So
I reviewed one of those
the Sony
For
Magic Link.
Max PC?
for Ars Technica.
For Ars Technica. That
Yeah,
was-
they talked. I mean, I don't want to spoil the whole story, and of course, it's all on Wikipedia because it is.
So you
it is
used one?
history.
briefly.
But they talked about the rush to get this product.
This was
on the
late
software
though,
side.
right? This didn't happen in 95.
Well,
It came out in,
they
like,
kept on
late
getting pushed back
90s,
because they
right?
had no managers. They ran a valve valve time.
Oh, that
like
does not lend
business.
itself to deadlines.
And so and the wonderful thing about this documentary, of course, is a story of failure and how failure breeds success, right?
Yeah.
Because if it was not for General Magic, if it was not for the Magic Link, Tony Fadell was just a kid,
Yeah.
fan of Apple, super fan of Hoffman, super fan of Andy Hertzfeld. He clamored for a job there. He was their low-level engineer, and then he left this, and then eventually came back to Apple.
So why did-
and created
Why did
created iPod.
Jobs not go there once he was fired?
Because Jobs doesn't work for other people.
Because Jobs wanted because he was did you not see
Why didn't
the
they
Steve
want-
Jobs film where his whole plan with Next was to
Yeah.
was to get back into Apple?
Fine, but why not do this instead of Next? Like,
There is
this-
a huge omission in this documentary because it does not talk about what Steve Jobs thought of this
Oh, really?
at all.
At
Steve
all?
Jobs is barely mentioned. They have more of John Scully in this because one of the big turns in this is that
Yeah.
Apple was an investor in this company and they felt betrayed because Apple secretly was working on the Newton
Yeah.
and had all their insight into their ideas.
They got
and
their
then
comeuppance with Android.
scoop, but and then Android was one of the legacies of General Magic.
I did not review this thing.
Okay.
I reviewed one of the competitors
Okay.
way later,
Okay.
just for the record.
Sony Magic Link.
Yeah.
But it's a fascinating documentary.
Okay, but tell me about the device. Black and white, I assume.
Black and white
Like,
icons,
got a picture right
touchscreen.
here.
But not capacitive, probably resistive touchscreen.
yeah.
So Megan Smith was there. She's CTO of. She's right there. She's right there. She's in the trailer. She was the America CTO, the first CTO of the United States, and they talk about like buying touchscreens off the shelf and making their own touchscreens
Okay.
and formulating new ways to do touchscreens because they wanted this tablet form factor.
Yeah.
And it had no keyboard. It was pen input.
So
it
it was nothing but touchscreen.
and pen, stylus.
They use
Yeah.
graffiti.
It was
Or like a jot
whatever.
type
Right.
thing.
Like
Yeah.
Palm didn't have a separate area where you drew.
In the
Yeah.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So was it like that?
They didn't show that part of it.
It does not look like it. Okay. This shows an actual desktop on the screenshot of the Magic Link on Wikipedia.
Oh, and you don't mean like a metaphorical
no,
desktop?
I mean it is a metaphorical desktop, but also a picture of a
Yeah.
table
I mean, the
desktop.
GUI was not the iOS home screen, right? It was
Right.
still folders and it was still applications running in full screen. But the idea was that they wanted a communications device that people would have on them at all
like
times. and
Mac
then
style 1-bit pixel art.
They could literally plug in a RJ11 cable and tap into the AT&T business intranet that you would pay a subscription fee for.
It had a modem.
It had a modem.
What?
A PCIe card, I believe, a expandability.
Had a modem.
But the problem was that they got scooped by the internet. They didn't see. They were so mired in their dreams and hopes for this PDA type device that they didn't see the internet pass them by.
By the time this thing came out, the BlackBerry was available too, and it had wireless GSM or GPRS, so you could get email.
One of these great things, I mean, is that in the trailer, toward the end of the film, as they like pan through the faces of all the people who work on it, they are like the CTOs of all the big tech companies today.
This is the failure
that spawned all the
15 other huge companies.
And the footage is fantastic because they were smart enough. They knew they had something, and they were so high-minded about it that they had documentarians film them in film, right? Obviously, not video. And so they've rescanned all that film, and they had like the first day with everyone at the office. They had all their late night, crunch time. It's all done in film, and it was all in service of making this this device that was conceptualized, 20 years before the iPhone, and it was the candy bar with the icons.
How about that?
480 by 320 pixel LCD.
Yeah, Palm bought all their patents.
That makes sense. Yeah, because the Palm 1 would have come out around the same time this thing came out. So a little bit later.
Highly recommended. Even though we've discussed it, there's so much more in the documentary that's not spoiled. It's just incredibly fun to watch if you're interested in technology, Silicon Valley, and it's on iTunes. It's
on
called
iTunes?
Magic.
All right, cool.
Watch another movie. Jeremy, you and I both watched this movie.
Gemini Man.
Oh, let's talk about this. Now, first of all, let's caveat and say it's a 27% Rotten Tomato score.
That's pretty good, right? That means 27% of reviewers really liked it. That's better than I would have expected based on the people I've talked to about this
Based
film.
on your Twitter feed? Based on your @mentions?
I'm going to go ahead and tell you the filters on turning off replies from people who don't follow you. Best thing I've done on Twitter in a decade.
Could have turned it on this weekend.
Oh,
but I thought worth watching and definitely worth talking about because of two fundamental technologies that are used here that are different. One we've seen before, which is a digital human. The story is Will Smith versus a younger version, a 20-year younger, 25-year younger version.
I was available, but they didn't call.
Yeah, they didn't call you for Fresh Prince, right?
Fuckers.
No, he's just born in Philadelphia.
You have been called to be a Will Smith, though. I'll just say, like, for the record, right?
When Netflix was doing Bright, they were doing a thing with a bunch of Will Smiths. Yeah. And they wanted what I would describe as aggressive likeness rights. So I did not agree to appear.
So Weta Digital did the young Will Smith.
That's amazing that they got Weta for this movie.
Well, they've done fantastic digital humans for a while because, of course, not only with Gollum, but more recently with the Planet of the Apes films.
Yeah.
Like their Caesar and their apes are fantastic.
Exceptional.
And they actually did some work on Thanos as well for Infinity War.
I mean, they did a bunch of work. They've done a bunch of Marvel. Like they're like any other place.
Yes,
they're for hire.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they are for hire.
I say it's amazing because in the context of this film, it that feels like a lot of money to have spent.
Oh, this movie was expensive.
Ang Lee directed, Will Smith starred. Clearly, this is a big budget movie.
Big budget movie. The script's been going around Hollywood for decades. Everyone's been a part of it. Harrison Ford at some point.
What?
Who was going to be in it? It was.
Is this a Blacklist thing?
No, it's one of those sci-fi. It's based on a book. Gemini Man. So it's one of those like perfect. If you think about the '90s, like we can start doing
this. Feels much more like a '90s.
Right,
film.
It does feel like a '90s sci-fi, like kind of real. One big idea, but that's it.
Right,
right. Anyway, like Schwarzenegger could have done this film, right? Instead of 6 Day, he did the 6 Day with clones of himself. Whatever. So digital human, they finally have the tech. Made a big deal about it not being de-aging. So it's not like Sam Jackson in Captain Marvel, where Sam Jackson was there and they just put dots on his face and then smooth it out. And so it's complete head replacement over a body double.
Yeah.
Wait, so Will Smith did not play the younger part?
No.
Well, he did the face capture and stuff for it.
Presumably did the face capture, which they matched then with the body double on set.
But he was never the other double.
But he was never the other double.
Really?
Yeah.
They used a body double for all of those action scenes.
And then he sat in a chair and they shot him saying all the lines
and
mapped him
and then animated it.
Yeah.
Hand done. Right. Keyframe.
Okay.
With of course some rigging with the performance capture.
Yeah.
So they felt confident enough to put not only on the movie posters but like front and center this young Will Smith that I think they get 75% of the time. It looks really good. 75% of the time for me.
Yeah, I'll go along with that.
That's probably not
even
enough.
the close-ups, the eye movements.
Yeah, the crying emotion.
Well, saccades, the infinitesimal eye movements you make constantly are one of those things that totally uncanny valleys people.
They
ask me how I know.
The thing that How did you know? Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about it.
The thing that I think where the digital human fails is in really bright scenes. Actually, the nighttime stuff, the low light stuff,
Well, that makes sense.
work really well. There's one final scene where they're saying this bright college campus, and that looked just not the video gamey a little
You
bit.
know what? The body double stuff is probably why most people went to see it.
Right.
But it is not
Not the reason this film was made.
definitely not the anything I was thinking about the whole film.
No.
Like it was always in the back of my mind because
Yes.
the thing that was
I
front and
buried the
center
lead.
was the HFR high frame rate that this film is projected in, which is at minimum. Actually, I shouldn't say that because I'm sure certain theaters are showing it in 24.
Vast majority of the theaters in the United States are showing it at 24.
Okay.
It's like Dolby Cinema and some IMAX laser or something
It
is
is
the only place you
14
see it.
theaters in the United States.
What? That's it?
Well,
are showing it at the maximum. It was only the second film. The first one was also another Ang Lee film to be shot at 120 frames per second. And it is being displayed in many theaters like IMAX at 60 FPS,
Yeah.
which is now a new standard. Thank you, Peter Jackson, for getting these
Hobbiting.
projectors installed.
so there's plenty of theaters showing it in 60.
Yes.
You can probably find that.
Yeah.
The 120, not so much.
Do either of you guys have a 120 hertz monitor for games at home?
no.
No.
So I would 120 hertz is makes things look real.
Oh no, and that's you're talking rendered things, right?
Yeah.
Rendered motion because there's no blur. Here, it makes filmed real people look like you're looking through a window into a space.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's exactly it. And I have mixed feelings about this.
Oh, totally.
Let me just say the violence felt more visceral.
All the action. It felt
So-
like I was watching the blocking of a airsoft paintball.
A play with
match.
giants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I felt like when people would get hit in the face with something right in front of me, I felt like there was somebody getting hit in the face. I didn't feel like I was watching a movie of it where it was special effects. It just felt like
And this was
whoa.
even without 3D.
No,
No,
it was
it was 3D.
also
It was
3D.
all
This is 3D.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure like I like that. Like I kind of like thinking that the violence is just a fantasy.
And they didn't cut away. You don't never get the slow motion. They use slow motion maybe
Yeah.
once in the film. They have lingering action stuff, long shots. All the action is all these fights. I was like, are they going to do like a martial arts style fight? And they did. They did this like hand-to-hand combat, and you feel those punches.
Yeah.
They did. There's an action scene where young Will Smith like basically used a motorcycle to beat
I've seen that
down
clip, yeah.
the old Will Smith. It's much longer than in the trailers, and it looks painful.
Yes.
Huh.
And that said, like that scene I think lent itself to a 20-something% Rotten Tomato. Like I thought that was a little goofy as well.
Yeah.
Just from a writing standpoint, but the violence felt real. But for whatever reason, the lighting in this movie felt completely natural and unfilmic. Like I did not like the lighting in this film at all.
Well, the lighting almost felt because the movie's set around the world, and one of the immediate things, because you think of when you try to communicate what does a high frame rate experience look like, you can refer to The Hobbit, which was 48, and people always talk about the
Soap opera.
soap opera effect. I would say this is more of a Best Buy TV demo effect.
Oh,
Where
wow.
if you go to a showroom and you see those screensavers, essentially where they have basically landscapes of like travel videos,
Planet Earth outtakes.
right? Travel videos
Yeah.
of like Venice or the beaches of Cannes or something, right? Like this looked like that. The shimmer of the water was like, is this? They just pulled this out of like a vacation video. That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
because it was so present.
Yes. But what about the lighting?
So the lighting to me, you said looked naturalistic. To me,
Yeah, it
all
looked
the
like a home video, like this shot with natural light, like not composed.
and I think that was intentional, but to me, all the set lighting was so glaringly obvious. The key lights, the backlights, like all that set lighting, I could see almost off frame the big airy lights with the silks
Right.
there.
Yeah.
Because all the actors, they lit it intentionally for 120, but it's like that's
Did they
not
have to
how
oversaturate it for the high frame
They
rate?
did.
So I mean, I did not like that.
They had to shoot
Why-
it super shallow.
everything had to be super well lit for the high frame
super
rate.
high lit, like in the framing too. You know how when you typically have a movie and you shoot, and for cinematographer, when you have conversation, you go over the shoulder and you reverse it.
Yeah.
There'd be two cameras, and then your ISOs. It was all ISOs. Actors would be center
Explain
screen.
ISOs.
There would be a center screen looking almost down the barrel, right off the side of the camera, and you would just get a cut. The cuts would be, I'm looking at you, and then you're looking at me. Never over the shoulder. Rarely rack focus with two people on screen because it was so shallow. and for the 3D, it was almost confessional in that way.
It felt like hanging out with Will Smith in a home video.
So it looked like a reality show. Like it was shot like a reality TV show almost.
No,
but without the confessional
but
stuff.
it was like he was there. It was like they needed to hire Will Smith because they needed an actor who would exude charisma so much that you would not see the acting. And even then, you saw the acting at 120 FPS. The acting was so. It made any bad line that you could kind of get away with in a filmic look that much more cringy.
It felt like you were watching them shoot a movie. It felt like you were watching the real people in a movie.
So they needed to shoot Tropic Thunder like this.
No, they need to shoot Hamilton this way. They need to make the artifice of a play or a musical, and that you are overacting, and it's meant to be seen in person. They need to put that in front of
That's so
the
interesting
120S.
that you say Hamilton, because I was talking to my mom about this, and she's a ballet choreographer, and I was thinking, I can't think of a good use for this technology because it's definitely not an action film. And she said, well, what about a ballet? Like, what about a stage production? I was like, that's perfect.
But even a stage production, you couldn't block it the way you could because I was trying to count the number of times they would go for when they're ISO shots, like basically a chest up versus how many times you would show full body. They rarely show full body because the full body look then makes it look like you're watching these giants. And the resolution in the US, at least, it's 120 at 2K. Only in the UK can you see at 124K.
Yeah.
It's not high enough resolution with these projectors to give that detail unless they're shooting basically ISOs on your face.
As a caveat here, I saw it, I believe, in 60, and that would have been the 4K version. And for honest to God, I'm not sure I could have told the difference between 60 and 120 because there were several slow motion shots, which are, I assume, lots of CG going on, where you see embers flying around the screen, and I couldn't discern a frame from the last. Like, it was smoothly moving.
You don't get any motion blur. And all the CG that's not the face stuff I thought they did well, which was impressive because it was at 120. But there were these action scenes where they're running from like car to car, and every hit on the car, like the sparks, glaringly a post-production spark added. Explosions looked incredible.
I'll give you that.
Underwater looked incredible.
I like the slow-mo stuff too.
But I would think that your effects work that you're used to doing at 24 hertz is not going to play at 120 hertz.
All your animators
are
at
doing
the effects
4 times as many,
houses
6 times as many frames
have
or
to
something.
render,
120 frames.
120 frames of particles.
So part of that is that you do the keyframes and then you let it fill in and then you touch up a little bit. So it's not like it's like 6 times as much work, but it's a lot more work.
It's 6 times as much time.
And
render
probably,
time.
I think even beyond that, I think it's way more than I think you're going to end up having to do a lot more work to make the same things, to make it look as good as it would look in 24 hertz, which was one of the things that came up with The Hobbit. Like, they were spending a lot more time on the faces and stuff because the minor errors to get motion blurred out at 24 frames a second don't at 48.
My secret hope for this is that James Cameron is looking at this and he's thinking for Avatar, or he's doing it right now, Avatar
5.
4 and 5 are 120 FPS because the underwater stuff looked so good. So
do you think that's because your brain doesn't have context for what underwater stuff is supposed to look like?
Maybe. And also because underwater you have natural particulates with the water.
There's natural particulates and the light behaves differently because you get more red filtered out.
Crystal
and stuff
clear.
Like that.
And maybe by the time Avatar 4 or 5 comes out, just like he would push to have more theaters, or this would be the standard way to see it. Like, this is what would get me, and I think people interested to go to theaters to watch an experience that's new. I'm recommending Gemini Man because I don't know if anyone else is going to make a movie in 120 FPS, and I think it would be a tragedy if people didn't understand at least what this can do. Because while this film may not be great, the amount of ideas coming out of it, like, Ang Lee wants filmmakers to watch this just so that they can make their own movie. Maybe it's not an action movie.
How was the action shot okay? Like, Ang Lee did a great job. He generally does a pretty good job with action.
I thought action stuff was what I love the most.
Okay.
Really? The handheld stuff? Handheld 3D high frame rate? And I had to take my glasses off. It was too intense.
Well, and I was thinking about this. In VR, you couldn't do this. Or VR, when you watch VR video at 60 frames or whatever, at most 60 frames, 3D, you're never going to get fast movements. But when you're within the borders of a frame, that's still giving you that kind of VR immersion feel because it looks smooth motion and it's 3D. I loved it. They were doing these crazy camera moves.
Handheld. It was too intense for me. It was stimulation overload, and I had to take a break from time to time. And I will never enjoy watching a movie with sunglasses on. Like the 3D.
It was bright enough
I
for
don't
me.
know. No, I mean it was totally bright enough, but it's not comfortable wearing sunglasses in a movie theater. Like I'm not interested in that as a poor compromise.
I hate having to wear glasses all the time. It sucks.
I will say, like, I was surprised that the 3D wasn't better, just in terms of like the thoughtfulness
Was
of
it post?
put to use. Oh, that's a good,
Everything's
that's a
post
good
now,
question.
right?
I don't know if this was or not. That's a good question.
I think almost everything is done.
But this is the director of Life of Pi, which I think may be the only feature film I've ever seen where I thought the 3D was a masterclass. Like it was actually really good and thoughtful. And very few people ever even saw Life of Pi in 3D. And I don't even know if it's available in Blu-ray 3D or not.
It is.
It is?
I have it.
You should absolutely give that a rent because that's like a 3D movie done well. I know a lot of people say Avatar as well, but I think Life of Pi is the high watermark. And this was nowhere near as thoughtful as that in terms of placing things in 3D space and composing 3D shots.
Well, the thing that Ang Lee did with Life of Pi that James Cameron didn't do with Avatar, probably because he didn't realize it, is there's a lot of like rack focus stuff in Avatar that just doesn't work in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did that here too. I mean, there's one scene in the opening where Will Smith is looking down a sniper rifle, and
that was
they
weird.
do like a rack focus into the scope.
Yeah.
And it's clear enough that you could see through the scope.
Yeah, but well, okay. I'm. This movie sounds bad. Guys.
Oh, it's bad. It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see it again.
But the technology is
just for the
definitely
tech.
the technology is interesting. I don't know if it's going to catch on. Like this does not tell me more movies should be made like this. But
Someone call Lin-Manuel right now, get him to see it, and say, bring that cast together. Call up his friends.
That is the best
the original
idea.
cast, and let's reshoot Hamilton in 120 FPS. 30.
I'd like to see like an animated thing, like re-render Finding Dory at 120 hertz and then play that.
I don't think animation benefits as much.
I think if you make animation look more real, it will be amazing.
Because animation right now is trying to look real, and it does it by cheating with 24 FPS. Animation at 60 FPS just looks like animation.
I mean, I think arguably everything looks better at 24 FPS because it has this, imaginary. Put your mind in a different state.
Yeah.
But so this technology is certainly something to have in the toolbox, but I don't know what the proper use of it is.
I think that's exciting. No one knows what the proper use of it is, but I hope that they find it, and because it's something that you're not going to get in the home, and I would love to see more of it in theaters.
Oh God, the TV manufacturers are dying for a new killer feature for the 2021.
Micro LEDs.
All right, other pop culture news. I want to talk about Kevin Feige, master of all things Marvel. And not only Marvel Cinematic Universe, but now also everything Marvel.
Games,
creative.
comic books.
He is now
cereal
he's been
boxes.
promoted to the Chief Creative Officer.
That's impressive. Like the president getting promoted is pretty good.
Well, he was the president of
CCO.
Marvel Studios.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the film department, which was spun off, to do the production for all the Marvel characters.
It's a
for
small
Disney
business,
bought them.
really.
Yeah, exactly. But he has hands in the Star Wars film, reportedly. But now the TV stuff, all the animated stuff, will all report to him, and all platforms, including comic books. I'm a little concerned about that, actually.
You think that it's going to make comics take less chances that
That's
are going to make
100%
less
it.
interesting storylines?
Yeah, I think the writers in the Marvel comics, especially now, like with writers like Jonathan Hickman, they can go far fetch with their concept, very high concept, the things that they know. Comic books have a happy reset button. Fans of comic books don't. They like continuity to a certain extent, but they're totally fine that it's the same Batman, the same Superman, and the same Captain America that they've been reading for 70 years. It just kind of retold
Reimagined.
every 5 years, moved up to the modern age again.
And then also like the spin-offs, like they're doing a what if show, right? But like the zombies and the what if Wolverine is evil and all of those kinds of things seem to be popular too.
So my hope is that he understands that. I think he's a big comic book fan, and he probably will be hands off. We'll probably be looking for opportunities to maybe use the comics as a way to seed new characters or to just prime the public for the rise of a certain character. Like before Iron Man came out and Jon Favreau, Iron Man was already in on the rise as a fan favorite. So maybe keeping his pulse to the comic fans because that's where they're going to get the fan bases, like Ms. Marvel, right? And using those as a springboard for the more profitable ventures like Marvel Studios.
Well, it lets them beta test ideas too, right? If they're using it as a sounding board, they people liked what Warren Ellis's Extremis. So Iron Man 3 is a riff on Extremis, right?
Miles Morales came
Yeah.
out of Ultimate Spider-Man and now is, one of the best Spider-Men. So good for him. He seems to have a lot to do right now. Casting news, you got two big reboots that have found new cast members. First is The Matrix 4. Now, we already knew it was going to be Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, and they had recently cast...
Lawrence Fishburne?
No Lawrence Fishburne.
What?
So they had cast the dude who played Black Manta in the Aquaman movie, if either of you
Oh, yeah.
saw that. I think very charismatic dude, be a good actor. Hasn't done a ton of other stuff. I'm trying to find his name. His name is Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
How are they doing? I feel like the Matrix movies wrapped up pretty nicely at the end, and like most of our protagonists were dead or transcended to a higher plane.
Right, but has Warner Brother made enough money?
Well, no, but
well, there you go.
My curiosity is in how you bring Keanu Reeves back.
I mean, but you want to see it, right? That's the problem. It's like you want to see this movie.
I saw the last two Matrix sequels. I think I might be good.
Exactly. I'm good too. Very good. And I'm only assuming, if for whatever reason, like maybe I'm too optimistic, but I feel like there's only one of the directors coming back.
Yes, the other's retired.
And
Okay.
I just have faith that she has perspective now. With time having passed and opinions being well known.
And also, it's being co-written not only by Lana Wachowski, but also brought in two new writers, Alexander Herman and David Mitchell. So it's going to be a sharing of ideas, and it will be Matrix for a new generation.
You know what I want them to do with Matrix?
Go to space.
I want them to hire well, okay, yeah, sure. I want them to hire Joseph Gordon-Levitt to take the last two movies and cut them into one good movie. I think that's a thing that they could do.
Anyone can do that.
Or Topher Grace, somebody who's famous for cutting up
You
old
don't need
movies.
to do a wide release for that.
Yeah, just put that out there. Call it the special edition. George Lucas that business right up. And
Not
make
mutually exclusive.
make those movies good, and then maybe talk about rebooting.
Well, the new cast member that was just added is kind of out of left field. It is Neil Patrick Harris, cast in Matrix
How I Met Your
4.
Mother is Neil Patrick Harris.
That's the one.
Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle's Neil Patrick Harris.
That's
Hey,
the
now
one.
imagine you're hearing about this new film called The Matrix,
Yeah.
and it's starring Keanu Reeves.
John Wick's Keanu Reeves.
No. This is like a long time ago, like Ted.
Well, Will Smith turned it down, so that's why Keanu took the role.
yeah.
Who
Some-
did?
Will Smith.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He was gonna be the. So here's the thing, though. Will Smith has a good YouTube video, by the way, explaining why he turned down The Matrix.
Wild Wild West, man.
Yeah.
But Ted Theodore Logan starring in an action film.
Johnny Utah, sir.
Utah.
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Was that
From Speed? Oh no, from Point Break is Johnny Utah. It's what's the guy's name in Speed? It is
Speed was all right. Speed was all right.
Speed 2, not so good.
So,
Look,
who do you think? What type of character? If someone told you have to cast Neil Patrick Harris, is
smarmy bot. He's a smarmy
AI.
Matrix AI. Yeah.
Smarmy AI. So Merovingian type character.
No, that's too cool. The Merovingian's a little creepy.
But in that
but
era
like a
where
cool
like
guy.
an AI with a personality.
I think he's like the squirrely guy that was actually human mouse from the first Matrix movie.
Yeah.
I think he's like a mouse but an AI.
But
Maybe
he
he's
was-
like hooked on some Matrix drugs.
so not human, not in Zion.
No.
In the Matrix.
In the Matrix. Maybe
Okay.
he's a human in the Matrix. I feel like you think he's a good guy, but then he turns out not so much.
No, not an agent.
No,
You
not
don't
an
want to
agent.
see NPH as an agent.
There's only one agent. All the agents are gone. Agent Smith is all the agents.
Well, we don't
now.
know when this takes place either. Like Kishore has said, maybe this would be a great prequel. Like if you open it up to like before Neo even knew about the Matrix.
In the canon of the Matrix has been rebooted many times.
Neil Patrick Harris kind of looks like the architect. Maybe he's a younger architect.
That's right.
Oh, no,
some
that's
smart.
bad.
There
Nobody
we
wants
go.
that. No, thank you, sir.
Apropos. Systems of control. Hope.
Gibberish. Just keep saying
Just-
gibberish.
Moving on, other big casting news this week in the pop culture world. Matt Reeves' Batman film has found the first of its rogues galleries, unless you believe the rumor that Jonah Hill has also been cast as
the
rogue.
Penguin?
Well, we don't know. People are thinking Penguin. I'm thinking Clayface.
Or the clock guy. The click tick-tock man.
No.
You're thinking of Captain Hook.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Catwoman
Hill as the
has been
crocodile.
cast. It's Zoe Kravitz.
She's great. That's awesome.
Yes.
It's Jack Traven is his name in Speed, which is also a great 90s movie name.
So she will star alongside Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, and this is going to be a younger Batman, maybe more crime-solving Batman, maybe a more detective noir story, and the idea is that it will be featuring many of Batman's rogues.
So, have you talked about Robert Pattinson as Batman? Yeah.
I mean, in that we're totally okay with it.
I think he's in like there's
He has intensity. He can brood.
he has the right lips for it. Like
That's
you
pretty
need
important,
No.
right?
Like when you're Batman, you need to have the right kind of. You need to have like a strong jaw and supple lips because you're doing a lot of mouth acting.
They do a costume test.
And Robert Pattinson has the right kind of face, the lower third of the face for that.
Oh gosh, I've been showing this thing the whole time. Oh boy.
You should put Robert Pattinson up there. People love him.
Anyway, moving on, we have streaming services. Let's get through our streaming service news.
Okay.
Oh boy, this
AMC
is like the next 3 hours, right?
has launched their new movie streaming service. So renting $3 to $6 and buying $10, $20. Major studios are on board.
Can I get movies while they're still in the theaters from AMC?
No,
Well, why do I care then?
because it's another way for you to maybe they'll get some exclusives. Maybe it'll tie into AMC stubs.
All right.
Oh, I'm back in.
Yeah.
All right. Next.
Well, more streaming service news. Of course, Disney Plus is launching November 12th, and they tweeted out their entire movie catalog that will be there.
They've missed a few movies.
Well, a
you
lot of
mean
the
that-
Marvel ones won't be there till later. It's a Netflix contract.
You mean they missed movies that they're gonna have?
They didn't include movies from there. They ran through all the movies in the history of Disney. Is
No,
my
they ran
understanding.
through every movie that's going to be on the service. Oh. And it was on Twitter, and it was a 600 tweet long thread.
That seems like a
Thanks,
lot.
Disney Plus.
And I clicked through every one of them.
Wow.
Did you take advantage of that 3-year deal?
I did.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that.
So
It's pretty great. I
stuff
mean,
from the catalog,
in terms
family
of
friendly.
in terms of backlog, this is a lot of stuff.
The Cat from Outer Space is there. That's all I care about.
You got all the Simpsons.
Yes.
You got Nat Geo.
It's funny to look through because it's all chronological, this tweet thread, and you can see these great periods in Disney history and how they come and then they fade. And
then
they
there's
come
the
and
Black
they fade.
Cauldron.
Well, the Black Cauldron, I love the Black Cauldron,
Yeah,
but
it's
that
not
was
a good
certainly
movie,
that was
though.
certainly a part of like their darker period.
Great Mouse Detective.
Great Mouse Detective's A-OK. There's a Rescuers, also another great mouse film in the Disney canon.
You know, those Davy Crockett films don't really hold up.
There's a lot of those. I didn't realize how many there were.
Oh man, Davy Crockett.
You've seen them?
I've seen Walt Disney talk about
I've
them.
never seen
They
them.
were
Like
all on the
documentaries.
Disney Channel when I was a kid. I've watched all of them. They are bad to racist.
I do not hold up.
I never
No.
saw the Swiss Family Robinson.
Oh, Swiss Family Robinson's great. It's also racist.
You know, Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. It's all I need right now. I mean, it's gonna raise my child for the next 3 years.
Which one? The new
Yeah,
one?
the
new
modern one?
The Mickey Mouse
Modern-
The one
Clubhouse.
with the They Might Be Giants theme song.
Come
on
and
down,
find
it's
it,
on
find
the
inside.
side. It's
Oh,
Mickey
Hot
Mouse.
dog, hot dog,
Yeah,
hot
yeah.
diggity dog.
Yeah, that
We've
one.
got ears. It's time for yours. Oh, I can't get it out of
Yeah.
my head.
That's They Might Be Giants, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Really?
I know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
You do the Donald Duck dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry.
you didn't grow up with that.
No, but
No,
my
Donald-
child's growing up with it right now, so
Yeah.
I am also
the Donald
living
Duck
through it.
and why does
great.
Donald Duck not wear pants, Norm?
I don't know why do they have a Victorian nightmare machine as their slave that they force to give them tools?
I have a lot of questions about the Mickey Mouse. Yeah,
Toodles! Why does it have a face? Why does it have a face? He just wants to die.
Just to avoid the Minnie Mouse bow tunes. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It will not have Endgame. Like it has every Marvel up until Captain Marvel.
Where do you
They're
go? Where
waiting
can I
for
watch
the
Endgame?
exclusive period to exclusivity contracts they've signed with other streaming services, like Netflix to end, and also they also want people to buy shit on iTunes.
So the big bummer to me about this whole thing is that about the 20th Century Fox purchase is that there's been a pretty big market in like rescreenings of 20th Century Fox movies for the last, I don't know, decade. For example, right now you can go see Alien in theaters because it's the 40th anniversary. And Disney doesn't do that shit. And so those movies will probably never be in theaters again which is a bummer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
But
watch
you can
it
watch them at home, I
in
guess.
VR
That's fine.
in your theater.
Apple.
Well, wait a minute. Are you not all in on Apple on
Disney
Disney Plus?
I look. I got so
You
many streaming services.
You haven't
right
decided
now.
yet. You're not
I
committed.
got CBS because Picard's coming.
Yeah, right on.
Yep.
Like I don't want to. We have a hard limit.
It's
I don't know
interesting.
what the limit is
It's
yet.
interesting. Okay.
Get rid of that Hulu.
Right on.
Hulu is where my TV comes from.
I'm surprised to hear that because you do have a television watching child.
That's true.
And this
we're
is
trying
like-
to discourage that behavior now. It's becoming a problem.
Yeah.
We've reached a point where we let her self-regulate, and that was working well for a while. But now she comes home from school and flops down on the sofa like Homer Simpson, and just is like, "Where's the Apple TV remote?"
Simpsons is on Disney Plus.
I know. I don't want her. They're too young for Simpsons.
I
still.
hear you.
Yeah.
Apple's TV Plus.
Yeah.
Also, still coming
I'm
out.
in on that.
Get
Let's
your
get
free
that.
year. I got
a
my free year.
Yeah, you got 2 free years, right? Back to
Yeah.
back.
Oh, that's right.
Can
No.
you redeem them?
Does that work that
sequentially?
way?
I don't. They
All you
better.
do is buy a couple of $1,000 phones, and you got like $60 worth of streaming services for free.
Yes, and 3% back. Also,
I don't know
Yeah.
if it works that way.
So they've announced, because there's been nothing that's so far on the Apple TV slate that's gotten me excited. Now, the fact that it's free is great, but
It's that Jennifer Aniston thing.
doesn't.
They got that.
The
She's on
morning
Instagram now.
show,
No.
The For All Mankind, which has now been renewed for season 2 already.
Is that good? Is this a thanks production?
This is not the Thanks production.
Oh.
For All Mankind is the alternate reality where, alternate universe story where
Oh,
the
the
Russians
Russians land
land on the moon
first.
first,
Yeah.
and this is the modern day, and so it's Joel Kinnaman. Anyway, the Thanks production is the news because there is a new series, World War II series, that previously was going to be on HBO. And it is the third World War II saga from Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. The first being Band of Brothers, second
Yeah.
being The Pacific, and now Masters of the Air
So it's
will
Battle
be
of Britain.
on Apple TV.
Is this based on a Ambrose book as well? I don't know if the Pacific was.
I don't
actually.
think so. I think it's just kind of like
Okay.
their, yeah. It is Don Miller's nonfiction book, Masters of the Air.
Okay.
American bomber boys who fought the air war against Nazi Germany, and it's not in production yet. And Apple TV is then spinning up its own Marvel Studios style internal production company to make this series. Direct control.
Wow. Is it so is it B-29s going from Britain, or is it B-25s going from Italy?
But this is their big HBO play for familiar type of storytelling that I think people will be into. Let's go to trailers. 2 trailers that we want to talk about. First, Jungle Cruise,
Okay.
The Rock, Emily Blunt,
Brendan Fraser?
Adventure Romp. Brendan Fraser is in there. No,
he's
he's not
not
in
in
there.
there.
No,
No, he should
it's
be.
The Mummy.
They should have him in there. If the Scorpion King's in there.
Yeah, I'm in for it. The Rock is charismatic as hell. Let's film in 120 FPS. They're fully embracing the kitschiness of the Jungle Cruise.
What a weird thing, huh? The Jungle Cruise is a ride.
One of the original Disney
I guess
rides.
Hey,
Pirates of the-
Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean also are rides.
Well, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely
One
true.
of those worked out pretty
There
well.
literally is the Jungle Cruise ride in this movie. The Rock
Yep.
takes tourists on, and then
Wait, is that supposed to be at Disneyland?
Is this like a
It's not
Jumanji
supposed to be at
situation where
Disneyland.
they get teleported
but
on the cruise ride?
he's not at Disneyland.
Okay, it's an actual jungle.
He's in the actual jungle, but
Yeah.
the idea that he's taking these tourists on a cruise and faking these sight
Do
encounters.
you guys have motion
in tongue in
smoothing
cheek?
on this TV?
No, I don't think so.
I think you do.
No, I'm
Something's
refused.
not right.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Jungle Cruise.
Gross.
The other trailer is Pixar's
You're-
Onward.
You are not going to see Jungle Cruise in the theater.
I have AMC stubs. I can see whatever I want.
Are you
3
serious?
times
You
a
have
week.
free child sitting,
gonna see this?
free child care.
Are you serious?
My parents will watch my kid once a week. If nothing's coming out that weekend, this comes out.
Wow.
I'll watch this in theaters.
Well, that's all about timing then.
Yeah, it's an
Okay.
excuse to get out.
You
How
can
about that?
get $18 from AMC Stubs, courtesy of Norman Chan Disney, if you release this on a movie when nothing else good is coming out.
Thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
Right.
I like The Rock.
Yeah.
I think The Rock's pretty
I
good.
do too.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dwayne Johnson.
yeah. Who knew?
You know, he travels with a gym. If you hire him for your movie, you have to have space for his gym.
Oh, I thought you meant there was a guy named Jim that always goes everywhere with
His
him.
gym.
Yeah.
It's his little
Yep,
entourage.
this is my gym.
Onward
My
from
gym has it.
Pixar.
No, never mind.
This is the Chris Pratt, Tom Holland Elf movie.
Oh, is this based on a book?
No. It's also kind of this alternate reality, modern day take of what if these elves lived in a modern world.
Is this the new trailer?
Yes, it is. Yes. What'd you think, Jeremy?
I feel like if this had a DreamWorks logo at the end of it, I'd be like, yep, that makes sense. Because it looks like a DreamWorks movie.
Kind of does.
Like, it's just got facial expressions galore, and they're all goofy. So I don't know.
Where's the timelessness?
I don't know. I mean, I will see it, obviously.
I'm more excited for Frozen 2 than for this.
Well,
That's a known quantity. You're always going to be more excited about sequels.
You don't
think about Inside Out. When you saw that first trailer for Inside Out, you're like, oh, I don't
No,
know. Inside
heck
some
no.
kid's
I was
brain.
I can't wait. I can't wait for Soul.
Dude, if you had a 9-year-old daughter, like Frozen 2 would like be on the calendar. Like I'm telling you,
Is it on the calendar? I've
been instructed to get tickets.
Is it on both your calendars?
That is a big deal. But and it's also the highest grossing,
second highest grossing animated film of
After
all
what?
time. Lion King, 1.6 billion worldwide.
you sure
Frozen
about that?
only 1.2 billion.
well,
worldwide.
so most grossing 3D film then, right?
Oh, you're talking about the live action remake of Lion King that was all
animated,
CG?
animated.
The live action remake of Lion King is also animated, Norm.
Yes, that's why it's the most highest grossing animated film of all time. Lion King.
Are you
But
talking
which
about,
one?
You're talking about the early one, the 90s
No.
one, right?
The CG Lion
The
King.
new one?
The new Lion King.
Shut up.
Without factoring in the original Lion King budget. They're not combining and doing this kind of Star Wars re-release combining. Lion King.
Those are two different movies.
2019, which is the same freaking movie story-wise, but a reanimated film.
No way.
Is the highest grossing animated film of all time.
I don't believe you.
You don't have to believe me. It remains true.
Thank you, Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's,
I've learned to trust Pixar when they do new
I've
properties.
learned to
too.
trust Norm when it comes to box office numbers.
Norm also knows box office numbers.
There's The Good Dinosaur, which,
Look, man,
there's
they
that.
made one bad movie out of
It's just
fucking
one.
20.
Yeah, gotta give them that.
Yeah,
When's the last time you watched Brave?
I like Brave. We watched
I like
Brave a lot.
Brave, yeah.
Brave
Kelly MacDonald,
actually
Brave
has
great.
held up
Accent.
really well.
There is a great new video on YouTube last week about the cinematography in Toy Story 3. I sent you that link. Did you watch that?
Yeah, Nerdwriter did it. And
It's great.
It's about fake lenses. Being
Yeah,
used.
it's about how they emulated these lenses.
Yeah.
And they're for the first time emulating anamorphic lenses and shooting with these actual like lens prototypes in their CG spaces. And
So-
that gave me a huge appreciation for lighting and the cinematography and what their new engine's capable of. So obviously, like from a tech standpoint, I
brilliant
can't-
camera light sources.
You should
Pixar-
stop this
Pixar's-
before the weird theories comes up.
Thank you.
What's the
YouTube conspiracies?
yeah? Ben,
Thanks, Jeremy.
pretty
Thanks,
soon
Will.
it's airplane fuel can't melt steel beams. What's the technological, like usually when they do a new movie, they're moving some technology forward.
that's usually the shorts, right?
No, it's usually both.
No, I think while we might perceive it that way, if you ask anyone at Pixar, they would never say that's the case.
Well, of course.
They always say it's story first, story
Right.
first. They don't create stories, just experiment with technologies. All the technology does is to serve the story. That's not to say that there have been things in the
No.
pipeline on their tech side that they
Right.
want to experiment with because these are 2-year production cycles. I don't think there is one.
On this one?
At Pixar, art challenges technology, and technology inspires art. That
Whoa,
is-
is that paint on the wall right there too?
That is the circle.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean,
the conjoined circles of success.
but if you think about it though, like with Inside Out, they did characters that are all particles, right? Like with Coco, it was lighting in the underworld. With and the leaves, like the leaf bridge.
I think those are just things you notice, but not. I mean, I would think they would say that with every film they have some type of new
I would
technology.
never dare to suggest that Pixar lets technology drive the product that they're selling. However, like they just went to a materials based renderer with what, Toy Story or Dory or something. It's been relatively recent. They were behind
I
everybody
thought it
else
was
on
Monsters
that.
University.
No, it would have been after that.
Well, we'll see. The
Yeah.
commenters and the YouTube will tell us.
Oh, I'm sure. I'll never know.
Well, I have confirmed.
It was Monsters University.
No. All-time highest grossing animated film of all time is Lion King 2019.
That's crazy.
Although
I didn't know anybody
domestically,
saw that
Incredibles
movie.
2. It made $1.1 billion
Opening weekend?
internationally
Oh, okay.
and $500 million domestically.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking about physicality based renderers, not procedural renderers. Sorry.
No, I'm with you. The new lighting system.
That started with Coco, right?
I don't think so. I think it was Monsters Inc. Sticking with that.
All right, that's it for the pop culture segment. Before we move on, I want to let you know that this episode of This Is Only a Test is also made possible with generous support from Thinkful, because high-paying careers in software engineering, data analytics, data science, and product design are vital to our future. And to secure your place in the world's next workforce, you're going to need the right tech skills. You need an education that leads to a career. You need Thinkful. Thinkful is a better way to learn. All of their courses are taken completely online with full-time and flex study options, so you can commit 100% or keep working. Thinkful offers an unmatched level of one-to-one support, and on day one, you're paired with a personal mentor who is always on hand to help you out, as well as an expert career advisor that will help you put together the perfect resume and organize mock interviews to ensure that you're hired within 6 months of completing the course. The best part, if you don't get a job within that 6 months, your tuition is fully reimbursed. It's no surprise that Thinkful graduates have gone on to work for companies like Google, Amazon, IBM, and Boeing. It's time to take your place in the world's next workforce with Thinkful. Go to thinkful.com/onlyattest to start building the future you want. That's Thinkful, thinkful.com/onlyattest.
So good.
Sounds really good in stereo. Hey, Will.
Hey, Norm.
Tell us about the Fortnite.
What about what's the fourth night?
Fortnite.
Oh, the Fortnite. They turned off Fortnite on Sunday and put a black hole up instead for a few days, and then they released a new map yesterday.
Is that map
Tuesday?
They call it Chapter 2.
replacing the current map?
The old map's gone,
Yes.
never to exist again.
All of the people's
Your twisted
hundreds
towers,
of millions, billions of hours spent in Fortnite
Probably aggregate.
trillions.
will are
Just
in
memories.
memory.
My
like tears in the rain.
My
Norm.
12-year-old son, who is the best Fortnite player I know,
Yeah,
present company
I don't play Fortnite.
excluded.
I'm bad at it.
He was sad.
Of course.
He was not in World for this World event, and he said he was upset, a little disappointed about that because it looked epic.
The world events are cool.
Like I guess there's been a meteor in space for a long time. There's been a crack in the sky, and there's been
Well, it crashed, and there's a crater in the middle of the map.
that's what it was.
Yeah.
And then finally something happened, and the meteor and a bunch of missiles flew down from space, and everyone on the ground flew up into the sky, and then was sucked back into this
Black hole.
singularity.
Yeah.
And it was nothing for a couple days. It was just space.
They shut down the most popular. It's not probably the most popular game in the world anymore, but like
Well, Minecraft is the most popular game. 100 million players.
sold, but playing at any given moment, I think. Well, it's hard to say because Fortnite they don't publish the numbers.
There,
but
you could enter the Konami code and you could play a Space Invaders game, and
What?
there were numbers being
What?
like emitted from the black hole if you looked at the Morse code or
is this
whatever.
some Peter Molyneux stuff? Do you have to keep clicking until you get to the center of the
Yeah.
hole?
Right. And but eventually, it just rebooted, and they wiped the Fortnite Twitter history.
What?
Yeah, like everything.
All of those social media, all that brand engagement?
yeah, it
gone?
got sucked into the black hole. All new map.
I thought they were just going to shut it down. I
They-
thought they were like, we've made enough money.
Yeah.
We've sold so many skins.
That'd be great.
Did they wipe out everybody's skins? Did like
No, you got
in
you
V2?
keep your stuff.
Okay, whew.
Yeah, but I guess there's boats
My astronaut
now.
skin's still there. There's
and-
boats?
Yeah, the boats you can ride.
What else?
There's a whole
Can you get
water
horses?
system in the map now. I
Is the
guess.
mech still there? People were really pissed off about the mech last time.
I don't know.
played
You can
Fortnite.
be a blobby creature though. You big blob.
That seems like your hitbox.
You
would
can
be a
fish.
disadvantage.
That's the big news. Is you can fish now, and you can
use the fish to build buildings?
you catch
Can you
weapons.
build fish buildings?
Catch weapons.
I want to catch fish.
And so there's already people doing feeds or streams where all of the weapons they get in game are from fishing.
We did a thing the other night on my PUBG stream because the snow map has a bunch of bolt action sniper rifles.
Mm-hmm.
We called it Edward M24 hands. My buddy Frank came up with that, and we just kept playing until everybody got single shot bolt action rifles, and then those are the only guns that we had.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was good.
So you're
got
still
really slaughtered
you're
when people
still
with-
all in on PUBG.
It was the #1 battle royale game in the world from Sunday until Tuesday afternoon.
How would you feel if the world was eliminated and started anew?
I would love it if they did something fun with the game.
Oh wow!
That's the best point here because I don't.
The game was fun.
No, the game is fun, but I wish that like their
events.
I wish that their
things people talk about on podcasts.
Persistence.
Events.
Yeah.
Like you had to be there.
my friends who are producers in Hollywood were like, "Hey, what the fuck is going on with Fortnite?" It's all the
Exactly.
people
Lady
are talking
Gaga.
about.
What's
like
Fortnite?
it's like when it
Yeah.
used to happen in World of Warcraft. Like they've made news, and I'm not talking about the planned ones. I'm talking about like when somebody brought some influenza from a dungeon into Ironforge.
It's an alternate reality.
And
It's an
infected
alternate
the real
world.
world.
Sure, yes.
Like that, not in the real world, but affected like the players outside of the instance.
Did you?
That's interesting.
I love it. I love it when people do interest. Like this is at the end of the day, this is marketing bullshit, right? But it's really clever, and it presents the game in a new light.
I
And
don't
it's
think it's marketing. I think
is.
I think it's community building.
Well, it's both marketing, community building, same thing, just different targets, right? Community building is keeping the people who are already playing engaged. Marketing is getting people who don't play the game to know about the game.
Right.
So sorry, I just mansplained marketing to you. That was shitty. But the point is, like they're doing something fun and cool, and they're taking interesting chances. They had the concert with Marshmello in Fortnite. They've done a bunch of these big world events, and like it's really a fun it's fun stuff to do in a big live game. Destiny does some of that kind of stuff. Rocket League does a bunch of that stuff, but Fortnite I think is doing it better than
I don't
anybody
think
else.
Rocket League doesn't do these kind of. You
Well,
had to be there events.
No, they don't do that, but they do like product tie-ins. Like they have a Stranger Things tie-in
Yes.
right now that's really cool.
They did the whole '80s flashback summer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like it's smart. It's better than just like, hey, here's patch 4.3 and now you can throw the pan.
Well, they
which
do
is
that a
what
lot too.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
like it's good to have something to kind of like.
Yes.
It's good for the big events in the game not to be, hey, here's a new way to pay us money.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
It's all, hey, here's a new way to pay us money.
it is, but it's good if they put a veneer of here's something cool just for you.
This
on
is
top
a
of it.
ballsy ass move. I mean, you got to hand it to them.
Yeah,
because
shutting it. There was a real cost to them not running the game for 4 days.
Not just that, but
Or 3 days, whatever it was.
killing everything people know about the game and starting it with a fresh map, with no option.
A risk.
Well, so the other side of it is that the user engagement has gone down over the last several months, especially since Ape Legs came out. So it was, if they were seeing a decline, it's the right time to take a big chance.
All right, let's go talk about some hardware. So we're all here presumably very excited about the Playdate. This is the Panic Playdate.
Yeah, it's the thing from the teenage. What's the Panic is producing it, and Teenage, the people who make those little synths. Teenage Daydream is a Katy Perry song. I'll look it up.
I don't know who's doing the hardware, but that's the novel handheld console with the crank and the kind of monthly release of games, season pass, old school, kind of monochrome. Well, there's another retro-inspired gaming portable that's going to come out early next year, and this one is a straight-up modern Game Boy, in that it plays Game Boy games.
Yeah, it's FPGA.
Teenage
You literally insert cartridges into it and it plays them.
So it's from Analog.
They made the Analog
GUE.
NT and the Analog Mini, I think.
So
is
they've
the other
made
one, right?
or not emulators. They've made basically new hardware that play old games, making their own custom circuitry with FPGAs. They're not running emulation. They are actually going from cartridge
Well, they're emulating the hardware
on the
in
hardware. Right,
Yeah.
not software emulation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
FPGA has absolutely transformed the emulation scene. Like it has made people who hate emulators totally on board with it. Like it is made it accessible and acceptable to a whole new audience.
Requires a lot of electrical engineering to
There's a
to actually manufacture and produce.
Well, so there's the emulation scene used to not like emulate, like people, the hardcore arcade collectors and stuff used to be profoundly anti-emulation. The thing that FPGA does is lets you emulate the actual silicon on the boards. And because of that, and also because in the last few years it's become clear that like there is a absolute lifespan on arcade hardware, especially early arcade hardware, in terms of like capacitors that are failing and batteries that are dying. Like there's Capcom boards that if the battery dies and you don't hot swap it while the power is still on, the board's dead forever.
These are
right?
30-plus-year-old boards that were supposed to last half a decade.
Yeah, if that. Yeah, and so I think this is a really neat product. It has a dock, so you can play the games on the TV as well. I think you need to pair it with one of the 8-bit DOE Bluetooth controllers to do that. It seems really neat, but like
you got Game Boy
analog
games?
That's the thing is I don't really have a lot of Game
But
Boy
they're
games
so cheap.
anymore.
They're
No.
cheap at GameStop.
But so here's the thing.
What's the thing?
I love the idea of putting the cartridges in, but it feels really weird to me to make a $200 system designed to play 30-year-old cartridge games, when in reality the way to are you guys familiar with the Mister?
Yeah.
So it's
The same thing for
it's
consoles.
the open version of this that you can just load a bunch of ROMs onto, which is the easier way to do it.
But you're still playing old games. You're still
I don't. Tying it to the physical old games
Dude,
feels weird.
there's
to
Is
me.
it overly precious too?
I'm sure 10 minutes, 10 seconds on the internet, you can find a Game Boy cartridge with a ROM on it. You can push all of your ROM files on.
Put an SD card in, right?
That's
and
what I would be doing.
Mike Micah is somebody we should have on the show again because he has thoughts on FPGA and what it's done for the emulation scene. And it's like it's very, very positive. Like he'll tell you about what's wrong with traditional emulators. You know, like the sound, for instance.
Even
Almost-
the good ones, right?
Almost all emulators, like traditional emulators, there is a delay because everything uses a sound buffer. So when you jump in Mario and you're emulating on a Nintendo emulator, there's a few milliseconds, a few frames of animation where the sound lags. And we've just taken that for granted now. Like most people wouldn't even notice, but hardcore people do. And when you play it emulated properly on an FPGA system like the Mister,
Yeah.
it just feels right. Like suddenly you're like, oh, right, that's what it's supposed to feel like.
So this is interesting because it's also running a very high resolution panel at 3.5 inch, but 1600 by 1440, very high pixel density, and it's using their own scaling because obviously for Game Boy Advance, they're gonna have to do some weird display options, but the potential will be that you can play not only those cartridges and those ROMs, presumably with the right cartridge, but adapt it to work with other classic portables.
So it is a full color display.
Full color display because they do Game Boy GBA.
Well, and it's also worth mentioning that earlier analog hardware, so the Analog Super NT, there is it's unclear if it's official, but there is a ROM, a jailbroken ROM that lets you load ROMs, like a jailbroken firmware for the device. So this thing looks really cool. The industrial design on it is lovely.
It looks beautiful.
Does it have shoulder buttons?
Do we see?
No shoulder buttons.
It's all renders right now, though, right?
It has to have shoulder buttons if it
Oh
plays
no, it does. Yeah, it does.
GBA
it
games,
does.
right?
It does have shoulder buttons. Nicely designed, kind of right next to the cartridge. 4 buttons and 4 buttons, D-pad, two shoulder buttons, and then 3 like menu system buttons. Analog Pocket early next year, $200.
That's the right price.
If it could do a little more.
I mean, if you can play SNES games on it, all bets are off. Yeah. I mean, the thing I've realized after having bought a bunch of those mini consoles, really all I want is SNES games and maybe some GBA games.
I like it being dedicated with hardware buttons. This would be a thing to throw in a bag and play on an airplane, as opposed to.
Where are the shoulder buttons? Are they on the side?
You see, they're right there.
Oh, above the slot.
Nicely
Okay.
designed, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
It's good.
That looks more comfortable than an old school GB, the skinny GBs.
They're going to sell a dock also, and the dock will let it then put on TV and have USB controllers or Bluetooth controllers.
It's an upsell.
Yeah.
Have you installed emulators on your Oculus Quest yet?
No.
Yeah, it's worth trying. It's
Side load.
pretty easy,
Huh.
and like SNES runs great. Like everything from the 80s runs okay.
Huh. Where do you see them in the theater app?
Yeah. What I guess it's all SideQuest has its own sort of
Oh, like a UI?
it's a
Store.
Yeah, there's also UI for it in the app. I don't know.
But like you can you run any Android APK in the theater.
But yeah,
thing,
you
right?
go not theater, but Oculus TV.
Oculus TV.
Yeah, you go in there,
that's
and
what
it'll
I'm saying.
show up there, and you just launch it from there.
Neat.
On the Steam side, Valve has announced a new feature for remote play together. So any game that previously was local multiplayer with split screen or on single screen,
Is this actually out now?
I don't think so.
don't think so.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll play online. So essentially,
That's
local multiplayer
amazing.
games you
Like,
can play
with
remotely.
no
means-
code updates
Yeah.
from the developers. That's amazing. Like, I wonder what the latency is going to
So
be.
I assume this is like if the three of us are playing, we all have fiber. We all live within 20 miles of each other.
What are the games?
Oh, like there's a shitload.
Brother?
Nidhogg.
Anything from Pixel Junk?
Yeah. the Towerfall in those games.
Oh God, yeah, Towerfall.
What's Samurai Gun?
There you go.
This is worth it for Samurai Gun alone, as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Launching October 21st of the week of, so sometime later this month. And again, seamless user experience.
That sounds
We're
awesome.
Curious about the latency though.
Think about all the stuff that's on Steam. Think about like the old arcade collections and stuff like that. That means you can conceivably do that stuff even.
Anything from Lego.
Oh, right. I feel like the Lego is probably where this is going to work best because my bet is like Samurai Gun and Towerfall
And
and
Nidhogg.
those games and Nidhogg that are really
Little
latency
too twitchy?
dependent are
Yeah.
too twitchy. But who knows?
On the 3D printer side, Prusa, one of our favorite makers of FDM printers, is now just announced the Prusa Mini.
Dun dun dun.
$350 for a small printer, FDM as well. What's the build volume here?
Okay, it's less.
7 by 7 by 7.
Inches or centimeters?
Inches. 18 centimeters.
Right.
18 centimeters cube. And they have a demo of a full cube.
So
So it's like the printer brought simple size, but a little bit bigger,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. But it's
RIP.
almost all the benefits of the MK3. So it has their build plate, which is removable.
Pops
and
out.
It's fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
You can get the textured or the smooth. I recommend the textured. When your print cools on that textured base, it's not
Just falls
adhered.
off.
It is not adhered.
That's awesome.
In any way.
It's like that build tech stuff, right?
So same layer height as the Mark
Yep.
III.
Oh, absolutely.
Same travel speed. Temperatures are a little lower, 280 as opposed to 300.
They moved. It's also a Bowden. It's their first Bowden printer, so which means that the print is or the filament is pushed to the print head
rather than pulled.
rather than pulled.
I mean, the interesting thing to me about this is that they're doing full speed because a lot of times on these cheap, on the small size printers, they'll do slower steppers, so your prints take forever. And the fact that this is small but still good is really interesting.
It's their first 32-bit software as well. They developed it for this, and it's going to eventually roll out across the other platforms.
Has a color screen.
It does have a color screen. It's not touchscreen,
Yeah.
but it's a nicer screen. The current screens all are just 1 bit. It only has one Z-axis stepper motor.
Yes.
So that's one of the cost savings
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
But as long as it's sturdy enough and you've built
Exactly. Like that's the one thing about like this versus the i3. That's I do wonder about that. Like how sturdy is that x-axis?
It
But
says it has a Wi-Fi upgrade. Does that mean you don't have to use like Octoprint or something with it?
yeah, I don't know. With the old ones, you had to insert a Raspberry Pi Zero W.
Okay.
But
The Wi-Fi module is not included, so you have to buy the Wi-Fi module separately.
Is the case on the finished ones 3D printed or is it manufactured?
what case?
Oh,
Well, like in the shots, like the frame for the screen and all that stuff looked like they were 3D printed.
I mean, they
Yeah.
3D print as many parts as they can.
Anything
Okay.
orange is 3D printed.
Oh wow.
It's a great deal. I mean, for $350, and it's practically assembled. It takes you an hour to assemble it,
Oh, we gotta test that.
That's pretty good.
and I think it's a absolutely
I bet Norman
the
I can
printer.
make that 3 no problem.
This is the printer I recommend to people who haven't gotten into it and want to dip their toes.
I mean, if you talk about volume, right? 7 by 7 by 7, 18 centimeters cubed. The Mark III is like 25 by 21 by 21 centimeters. So you could do it. It's not like that far off. Right?
well, this is the interesting use case right
oh, yeah,
there.
the
It's-
picture, yeah.
Oh, it's actually I can't pause it.
video,
But if
yeah.
you're printing small things and you're actually like you're doing it for manufacturing, maybe you have a small business.
Mm-hmm.
This could double your output. Like since you have 2 printers going at the same time.
Right.
And even though you have less build volume, if you have 2 heads that can work simultaneously, you actually can print a lot more in the same amount of time.
Because the surface area.
Exactly.
That's what you need.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Non-stop little chess
There it is.
figures.
that's their use case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super stoked. They also mentioned that a bigger printer is coming, bigger than anything that they've made before. It's just not finished yet.
It's not easy for a company to add new products to the product line and them be in high demand, like presumably this will be, and still fulfill that demand. Like their supply chain stuff has to work out really well.
This having a successful product and multiples of them have killed a lot of 3D printing companies over
Yeah.
the years.
Yeah, I do wonder about that.
Yeah.
And plus, it changes their software development needs, and they have to start supporting more and more SKUs.
What slicer do they use?
It's their own fork of slicer,
Okay.
but that they have now transitioned to their own, like that is their own entire UI. It's called Prusa Slicer.
Okay. So they just forked it and made it their own.
Yep.
Interesting.
Alrighty. Last bit of tech news. Volvo just announced their SUV, EV SUV. It's called the XC40. It looks pretty good. And a 78 kilowatt battery, kilowatt hour battery, and it will go 200 miles of mixed driving between charges, which is
How much does it cost?
the pricing. Good question. Is I don't have it. No word on cost or release timing.
I'm saying 60,
At
70,
least
70?
70 is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
What's the range? 300 miles?
200.
200.
So this is going to be the Model Y competitor, right? It's
Right.
the entry-level SUV.
Well, then that's just less than 60.
No, Model Y is going to be 10% more expensive than Model 3 and 10% less range than Model 3.
Right.
But that's not
it's
so
a-
So if you want the max range,
No, I don't. I want starting point.
Oh, starting point, yeah. I think Model Y is 50 or something.
50, yeah. Huh.
And that's supposed to ramp up or start production next year. Early next year is when Model Y is supposed to start production. So
Okay.
EVs are here to stay. That's all I got to say about that.
That's right.
That's right.
You said it. I got a big thumb up from an i3 owner the other day. I drive a Bolt, and I backed into my garage, as
Nice.
one does.
Yeah, decent people.
Decent people do. And I did it so swiftly, like with such confidence, that when he drove past me, having waited for me to back in, he gave me that big old
Did-
thumbs up.
Wow.
Norm, have you used the smart summon thing when you're in a parking lot
Fuck
for the
no.
car? Yeah, okay. I just wondered.
What am I, a moron?
Yeah. That seems dangerous and irresponsible
Yes.
at best.
Yes.
Have you played your new video games?
No, but they're there.
You get
Cuphead's there.
Cupheaded?
Well, not just Cuphead. There's a driving game where your car
Oh no, I've done that. I've done
is in
that.
the game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like your
Oh no, I haven't done that.
your make and
I've done
color.
the buggy
That
thing.
seems like a bad
Oh,
idea.
no.
Do you use the wheel to steer?
You do, and
That's
use
a
the,
terrible
the
idea.
brake to brake.
It's an awful,
It
profoundly
detaches
stupid
the
idea.
wheel from.
I understand. It's just bad. It's don't teach people to, anyway.
Will
yeah.
is jealous.
No.
That's all this is.
Things to do when you're at a supercharger.
Are we doing
yeah.
a moment of science?
We're sure.
We're not going to have time for lunch if we do a moment of science. This one's pretty good, too. I'm just going to talk over the music. So I've started it. I can't stop now.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
All right, just two quick things.
It's
in
like
moment of
he's right
science. Yeah, it is. NASA showed off some of their new next-gen spacesuits for Artemis. Should be ready by 2024. These are their EMUs. They're called them XEMUs. They're for extravehicular mobility.
So there was the one that was the moon suit and one's the spacesuit version of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, this is for spacewalks.
And
essentially.
are these hard shell? They look like they're hard shell suits.
The white one is for spacewalks and moon walking,
Yes.
Yes.
but the orange one is for space travel.
It's like
Right.
for launch and landing and
Yes.
stuff like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They look cool.
The white one, man, I don't know. I feel like the red, white, and blue on that white one is a lot.
It's a little America, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of America. Fuck yeah. Not like
Well-
America.
There's plenty of time for that to change
I'm
by
sure it will.
2024. Could even be 2 administrations of
Now,
change.
now take a moment. Obviously, the aesthetics are there, but the technology in this suit is pretty awesome. Like they have added bearings in order to help the rotation points.
And on the shoulders.
so
and
around the
waist,
waist and around the shoulders.
So this is
it's
mechanical engineering.
Super easy to do those things. Wow, what
Well,
am I-
presumably
super
be
easy.
easier to get in and out of. Like Norm and I have put on one of those upper shells, and it was terrifying. Like I can't even imagine trying
Really?
to do it when you don't have gravity to push against.
Yeah. The orange one looks far more comfortable. I don't know if you've seen.
The orange one's soft, presumably, right?
Yeah, and it just has. I don't know if we have pictures of the orange one. Yeah, here's the orange one.
The orange one is basically like the thing you wear during launch and landing, so that they can find you if there's an accident.
Or if you're looking for like a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one.
That's the iconic one.
I really like if you look at the design changes on the upper body for the new spacewalk suit, the fact that it's rigid and the arms go out the front instead of out the side mean that the people's arms will be much more accessible,
Yeah,
which is the coolest part of the whole thing.
Cool.
definitely.
I like it.
These people look
Buzz
very
Lightyear.
uncomfortable in these what are presumably 300-pound mock-ups of the suits standing on stage without, like, usually when they wear them on land, there's something supporting the backpack.
No zippers and no. What was the other thing? I forgot. But no zippers. That was a thing.
Because you can't do zippers in space
They're hard. They're difficult.
with gloves on.
I think they're hard. I mean, obviously you're getting help.
They didn't show the glove. They didn't show the glove side of this, which is, I think, at least I didn't see anything about how the gloves work. The gloves are always the hard part. Like the thing that they don't tell you is that the astronauts are constantly working on hand strength because in order to do spacewalks with those gloves on,
That's right.
you have to be super duper. Your hands have to be really strong.
I'm still recovering from playing Asgard's Wrath. My finger hurts.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Jeremy. You're gonna be okay.
I need exercise equipment.
Other story for science, marathon story. This is kind of cool. So, did you guys hear the report that
Yes.
last week, over the weekend in Vienna, one of the world's best marathon runner, long distance runner, a Kenyan by the name of Kipchoge, I want to say, did the first sub 2 hour marathon.
Which meant that he basically ran the entire marathon at Tom Brady's 40 speed. Is my understanding.
Yeah,
Like the same
basically at
pace
4 minutes and something seconds per mile for 26 miles.
Yeah.
Now, that was the headline. The thing that was more interesting to me was the engineering of this exhibition run, because it wasn't in an actual marathon race. It will not be considered world record because it wasn't. It was perfectly engineered to optimize for the conditions. Like the theory was that the hunt for a sub 2 hour marathon has been for so long, and he has done attempts where he has gone very close, like 2 hours and 1 minute, 2 hours and 2 minutes, and in fact, like right after he did this at a real marathon competition, one of his competitors did almost 2 hours. But the difference between like 2 hours and 2 minutes and 1 hour and 59 minutes required a tremendous amount of optimization.
So you're saying it's all in the shoes.
No, it is a lot in the shoes.
Okay.
I'll tell you what it requires. So I'll say
Those
how
last
do you-
3 minutes are the shoes.
How do you squeeze an extra 3 minutes out of a 2 hour run?
Well, you run a little bit faster for each minute of the run.
Yes. What they had was the course. What variables can you control? You can control the shoes, of course. The shoes were controversial themselves. There were a prototype Nike shoes that were based off of a shoe they released last year, which they called the 4% because in their tests, it improved efficiency, body energy use by 4%.
Is the heel flapping?
So it's a combination of the foam they're using, a lightweight foam that is light and squishy but also provides a lot of firm bounce back.
So it's
and
like
there's
silly
a
putty.
carbon fiber plate in there.
Wow.
Not as a spring, but in the way it releases the tension on your knees is the design.
Wow.
The prototype that he wore for this particular run is a next-gen version of that. And apparently they don't even say what percentage it improves, but it could be a 5 or 6% improvement.
3 minutes off of 2 hours is like,
Now, the shoe is one thing. The course is the other thing. They chose a course in Vienna that was extremely flat. It wasn't a single 26-mile course. They had basically a loop. It wasn't exactly a track, but they had basically 90-degree turns. So when he would go basically straight away and then 90-degree turn, which would minimize any energy loss as he would do the turn. They couldn't find a 26-mile circle, essentially. Now, here's the other part. You see in this picture, there are other runners behind him.
Yeah, I was going to ask about those dudes.
Yeah.
Not competitors.
No.
Part of the team, they would swap in teammates who would run in front of him,
Pace runners.
to create
like a rabbit.
Kind of.
and not only for him to keep pace, and the pacing was the whole other thing. They had a car that would drive at pace that would laser project the 2 hour mark that he had to stay ahead of.
Wow.
So if the laser marking would go like behind, if he would fall behind that, he would be under the 2 hour mark. He would stay past it. He would be ahead of the 2 hour.
So
mark.
these
overexerting
people
himself,
are
man.
drafting. He's drafting.
He's drafting. They brought in ringers for him to draft behind and to block out wind resistance. So he had basically no wind resistance. Wow. The most optimal engineered run.
So, wow. So the difference between a 2 hour, 2 minute, and 1 hour and 59 minute is wind resistance.
Is money.
Yeah.
Is basically a lot of money.
Could you do that in a real race? Like have people that you draft behind that just enter and throw their chance to lift you up?
I'm not as familiar in the world of competitive.
I feel like that would be
marathon
frowned
racing.
upon.
I think it probably happens.
So where's the money in this? Why?
They sell a lot of shoes, man.
Shoes.
Is it the shoes?
Look,
Did they pay for this?
I think it's a combination of different sponsored companies, but basically, yeah. This
mean-
is their moonshot.
Got a lot of headlines.
just think if I can shave 4% off of my marathon time, I could get it under 6 or 7 hours. Like Like that for him, it's like 3 minutes. For me, it would be at least 15.
Oh my god, I can't even run to the end of the block.
You have a boosted board. You don't need that. Think of what your marathon time is with that technological advancement.
That's the problem.
You'd have to stop and charge.
It would be 2 hours plus 40 minutes of charging.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
So, what's there to talk about in VR? We talked about Daydream being gone. There were some pictures. Sony at a Ghostbusters LBE experience had showed off some AR prototypes that there are no specifics about. Asgard's Wrath is out, of course, getting rave reviews.
Yeah, I have gotten farther in Asgard's Wrath, but as I said, I'm taking a break because my finger hurts, and I wanted to get this SSD installed. But it's cool because when you get to the next character that you embody, the game kind of resets. You know, you lose your last character's upgrades and all that fun stuff that you maybe upgraded at the shop, and you get to start over again. And the second character is wildly different. It's more of a wizard.
It's like an RPG, this game.
Yeah, but you're embodying different character
Yeah,
types. And so I love that. Like I'm always a mage.
This is one of those things that everyone who's played it to near completion confirms that it is 30 to 50 hours.
That's too much video game for
and
me.
there's a lot of
It's a problem for us parents and stuff. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Like in this game doesn't mess around with that. Like it takes you 2 hours just to get to combat. You know, it's like slow going.
Wow.
But you'll be appreciating the sights. You're a graphics nerd.
Yeah.
It's a good looking game.
They
Cool.
do scale really well.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the
Do you get to
link.
shout "Cast Magic Missile" into the darkness?
That would be great.
Did you play it with Index?
I did initially, but it wasn't keeping frame rate with my 1080.
So hold on. So why?
I'm playing on Rift 1.
Oh, so
CB1?
you were using Revive to play it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and other people have gotten to work with a 2080. They say it works pretty well, but it was too frame droppy for me.
Oh, that stinks.
Yeah.
You can turn on the
It didn't
sampling?
work.
Oh,
Didn't
really?
work. I think there's something in the game that pauses now and then because there's a really interesting video on YouTube of somebody who tried the game on a lot of headsets, and that was his assumption too.
Alrighty. That does it then for this week's episode. Thank you, Will. Hey, Will.
Hey, Norm. How's it
Tell
going?
us about what you're working on.
I've got a couple things. I mean, we're doing food stuff as always, but I can't talk about that because at least not yet. I just launched a new podcast with friend of Tested, Brad Shoemaker, former frequent third chair over here on This Is Only a Test. And we basically deep dive into one technological topic every week. So far we've talked about, I'm completely blanking. We talked about battery technology. We've talked about supply chain stuff. We've talked about food tech. And we spend 45 minutes or an hour just getting really deep and in the weeds with one particular thing. You can find it at techpod.content.town or on everywhere that your podcasts want to be. So Apple, Spotify, Google Play Music Podcasts, Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher, I think we're there now. All the places that you find podcasts. If you just search for TechPod, 2 words, it comes up. And then I also play PUBG and other games pretty much every night. I played all of Control recently on stream.
On Twitch.
On Twitch. You can
Oh,
find
shit, I
there's
should
a
watch that.
playlist where you can watch the whole thing.
Oh, maybe I will.
So
that game is dope. It's
Control
really good.
is supposed to be the hotness, and I haven't played it yet.
You wait until you get a new video card.
Yeah, it's got the ray tracing, right?
It's got the ray tracing. The ray tracing, it's like ray tracing is such a subtle thing. Like most people aren't going to notice, I think. I mean, you'll notice, but you're not going to, like once you get into the game, you're not going to notice. It's really, they use it for lighting. They use it for like reflections of environment. So there were a couple of times, and they do a good job setting it up where you'll like walk into a room and you'll see something reflected in the mirror behind you, and it's very startling. But basically Control is like the good episodes of X-Files, where there's a monster of the week and you have to figure out how to solve the monster problem. It's very good. And my Twitch is twitch.tv/notthatwillsmith. Content, techpod.content.town.
There you go. And if you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can throw your free monthly Twitch sub at Will.
Yeah, give me Jeff Bezos' money. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
So I'm getting all that Amazon money back.
Sweet. Jeremy?
At some point, we should talk about whether or not the tech company should be broken up. Like that is a topic I'd like to hear your opinions on.
The tech company?
No,
Which one?
Like Amazon, Apple, Google.
I think
The
it's
whole
unfortunate that
Elizabeth Warren stuff.
yeah, Amazon owns both the back end for the internet and the largest retail store.
Yeah.
That seems bad.
There you go.
Facebook, there's problems there.
Yeah, it seems most obvious for me with Amazon. I know we want to cut now, but I'm just saying that should be a topic. Like,
Yeah.
we should delve deep into that.
Let us know what you think in the comments below.
Let's get an expert in.
You think the internet has an opinion on this?
Probably. You can find it on youtube.com/ I don't know what. Tested?
Anything.
Are you tested or tested.com?
Alrighty. Thanks so much for listening this week. Jeremy, we had an outro.
I was doing this all show. I want to know if the viewers think I did a better job than Kishore. Now, obviously, I left that one documentary up there for 20 and some odd minutes.
That happens.
Ignore that part. Besides that, how'd I do? Here we go. Let's see. Okay. We're looking for the outro.
We got some good outros of late.
Oh, you don't know about these, do you, Will? You'll notice that all of the outros are now from one person.
That's the way it usually goes.
If he stops doing them, we'll stop doing the podcast.
That's because no one else
No one
can
cares?
do this.
No, it's
Check
because they're
this
good.
out.
Oh.
They're from, first of all, give them a shout
I
out.
should say Wohawk.
Wohawk.
And I got to plug in.
This is a great segment. Guys, really nailing it.
It's worth the
Let me
wait.
turn this up.
What's
Yeah,
What's this one called?
This is called I Like That Shirt.
Oh, I do like shirts.
Why isn't it playing? No. Oh, you know why? Because I'm airplaying. Yeah. It's sending it to the TV.
All right, let's turn off the TV.
Technology
Airplane- oh my
podcasts for
goodness.
technologists
Here we
here.
go. Here we go. Here
This
we
one's
go.
only a test. Don't worry, we're going to do the real one after this.
Roadcaster. It worked now.
Nailed it.
Sure,
It's
come
gonna
back.
be really loud. Wow.
All right, that was Jeremy. Jeremy, welcome.
Thanks, Norm.
And Kishore's here as well.
I'm rocking a Constellation shirt.
I like that shirt. Short sleeve button ups. I like that shirt. I feel like is that a thing now? I like that shirt. Yeah.
Constellation shirt.
Like that shirt. Short sleeve button ups. Yeah. Like that shirt.
Bit of thing.
Shirt.
Like that shirt.
Short sleeve, button up shirt.
Yeah. Like that shirt.
I'm more of a roll up. Roll up.
I like that shirt. Me too. I roll up the sleeves. I see a lot of people rocking the short sleeve button up. Yeah. You can get away with more fun. I like that shirt. And interesting shirt designs. I like that shirt. When you wear
Challenge accepted.
that shirt.
Here it comes.
It's complimenting your shirt. Fun. Yeah. Like that shirt.
Roll up. Roll up.
I like that shirt. Interesting.
Bit of thing.
It's my climate change adaptation.
Yeah.
Now versus in the 80s. I mean, I was a Star Wars nut, and I had a trash can.
You should plug that guy's SoundCloud. That was awesome.
Yeah, his name is Wohawk. He actually published one of these songs that he made, like, as a piece of music.
Get it on iTunes.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
Thanks.
Nice plug, Jeremy.
We'll see you next week. Bye.